Welcome to the school committee meeting of April 1st, 2025. This hybrid meeting is being recorded and may be accessed by WebEx. The meeting link is in the calendar at burlington.org. If any board members are remote, all votes will be made by roll call. If connectivity is lost and we have a quorum in person, the meeting will continue. Mrs. Bond is away on business. Bobby, you can let me know if she joins, but I don't think she will be able to. So please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, I like your shoes.
Thank you.
Can I have a show of hands? How many are here because of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey? Okay, so I'm going to take that first out of order so that we can deal with it. So I think we were all pretty surprised at what came out on the Youth Risk Behavior Survey.
Surprise wouldn't be accurate. I'd give it a stronger word.
Yeah. So if I were currently a parent with a 6th, 7th, 8th grader, I would be sitting in the audience with you because, wait a minute, hold it. Please don't interrupt.
Okay. I will have my time to speak, though.
You will, yes, when the time is appropriate. So first, we are going to discuss the agenda item among committee members and the superintendent, and then we will take input after that. So some of the questions that I think we as committee members need answers to are as follows. First of all, if parents opted their children out, why was that not honored? What happened? What got messed up? Second, did the Middlesex League add or change questions as a group? And if they did change questions, why did they change them? Why were those definitions added into the survey? Because personally, I think they were highly inappropriate. Have other area communities used the same survey that our kids got last week? How were the parents in those communities? Did they have the definitions that we had in ours? The survey was supposed to be optional, but students who said they didn't want to take it were told they had to. And again, I can only speak for myself, but I think that if a student doesn't want to take a survey like that, whether their parent has opted out or not, they should be able to opt themselves out. So before we go any further, I'd like to ask Dr. Conti to just address the questions that I've asked.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I have most of them written down. So I think you asked about the opt-out, what happened?
Yeah.
The sort of emails I received from parents regarding the opt-out was that the opt-out was lost in sort of a flood of other communication from the district or through Parent Square. So
It was
maybe.
also ignored when our children communicated.
Please do not interrupt.
So.
Yes, some parents believe they did opt out and it wasn't somehow registered, it fell through the cracks somehow.
Right.
And that's
So
upsetting to them.
I also got that feedback. We did speak to Principal McMahon, and I think he could find 4 cases where that was the situation. There certainly might have been more, but he could only sort of find 4 cases where there was an opt-out that wasn't honored. That was a mistake, so we would apologize to anyone who opted out and that we either we didn't honor that opt-out. Ms. Monaco, I had a bit of different information from you, that there were students who expressed that they didn't want to fill it out, and that
True.
teachers honored that. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't, maybe there were other cases, but we did ask that question because that was also some of the feedback that we got. You asked about the Middlesex League, and we've been doing this as a league probably for about 6 or 8 years, and it was because the data set from the youth risk behavior prior to that was statewide, and we felt the results were skewed because of Boston, Worcester, and Springfield, so we wanted to get a more accurate data set, and so we worked with Leahy Clinic, and they funded sort of a community effort around the 12 surrounding communities, and they suggested we work with a public health consulting firm, and again, at the time, it was a paper survey, and we worked with JSI with Leahy's recommendation, and JSI converted the paper to a computer-based survey, and we began creating a biannual data set with the Middlesex League communities. JSI created the survey. I think they used some of the CDC. There's some Massachusetts health questions, but they also developed some of their own questions for the survey that we used. I think you asked about what other communities used the questions. I think that I think of the 10 communities that were using it part of this group, I think 8 were using the questions as we used, and that was both in 2023 and 2025, and I think...
Did they use the same definitions?
I think they used the same definitions, and two, I think, didn't use the questions. I think communities could eliminate a certain number of questions, but not, it was a limited number, and they couldn't change the wording of the questions. You either had to sort of take the question or eliminate the question. So that was sort of the part of the process. I think the questions went through our wellness committee, and so we got a look at the questions. Parents who requested to see the questions were provided the questions. I asked staff, they said they had one request to view the survey, and that was provided. What else? The definitions. I think one of our frustrations with the company that created the survey is they altered the definitions after we had reviewed the survey itself. So the Wellness Committee had seen the survey, and then the definitions were altered after that, and we missed the alterations. So again, that's another thing that we need to take responsibility for. We just assumed that the questions would be the same and the information would be the same as 2023, and it was changed. But that was changed again by JSI, not by our staff, and so that was something that we're frustrated with. As we discussed, we're moving forward. If the committee so chooses, we are not going to be working with JSI again. Parents of these other communities, I have not spoken to my colleagues or haven't heard from them that there have been similar issues. I think we all try to do the youth risk behavior survey in the same way, where we've done it biannually. I think the surveys are made available to those who ask. There's an opt-out in all the communities, and we try to administer it. So again, I think that certainly there were some issues with the opt-out, as we've discussed. I think there were some changes made and alterations in the definitions that were added, again, without our sort of consent. And then But other than that, the process has been relatively similar to what we've done in prior years. Did I miss another
No,
question?
I kind of want to speak for the parents, and they can correct me if I say anything that's not right. But
I don't
when
want anyone to speak for me. I want to speak for myself.
yeah, that's fine. Personally, my take on this is that it really should not have gone out to middle school kids as it was. I'm not even sure that I'm comfortable with it going to high school kids. I understand from speaking with you that there were a few glitches along the way, and somehow we screwed up, and that this should not have gone to middle school kids especially. Those definitions I found awful, inappropriate, disgusting, should not have been on there. And I believe that going forward, if we continue this at all, and I'm not sure we should, but if we continue it at all, I think we should stick with the national survey with the questions and not try to make our own and not try to do a better job and not bring Leahy Clinic in and not bring in some consulting firm that changes the questions and the definitions at the last minute that we don't even see. This was a mess. It was a terrible mess, and I feel terrible about it. Now, the rest of the committee, I think if each of you or any of you would like to say anything, please speak. Megan?
Thank you. I want to start by thanking all the families that reached out and those that are here this evening to share their thoughts about the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. I was appalled when I read many of the questions that were asked of our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. The sexual context was totally inappropriate. Kids today are bombarded with material that is beyond their maturity level, and as adults, we should be doing everything in our power to protect and preserve their innocence. I am very disappointed that we needlessly exposed young children to these topics. I was equally disturbed to learn that students whose parents had opted them out of completing this and other similar surveys were told to complete the survey anyway. Some students knew their parents' wishes and advocated for themselves only to be ignored, which is totally unacceptable. This cannot happen again. We as a committee need to revisit our policies and explore greater protections for our students and their families regarding student surveys and parental consent. I feel we should be seeking an informed consent from parents instead of relying on implied consent due to inaction. Parents should have the opportunity to review survey questions and ask their own questions about the content and how their children's data is used. I also feel strongly that students should be allowed to opt out of any survey at any time if they become uncomfortable with the content. I hope that we as a school committee can work together with Dr. Conti to amend our policy manual to reflect these changes. Thank you.
Jeremy?
So I'm going to echo the previous comments. I believe the communication was misleading to do the content that was in the survey. The message that went out made it seem like it was a very benign survey about youth risk behaviors. What was presented was something wholly and wildly inappropriate and different. So I would like to take immediate action tonight and get a policy in place that if a survey is going with an opt-out, that survey is always attached with it, so the parents can then review it while making that opt-out decision and have a conversation with their children if they feel they do need to do so, no matter what the survey is. I would also like to advocate for no longer participating in this survey, right? Not only is there miscommunication, I believe it puts us in a bad position where a child, if they had reported sexual abuse from a family member or something, like one of the questions was, that puts us in a mandatory reporting situation. The survey is supposedly anonymous. How does it remain anonymous? How do we not get into a mandatory reporting situation? So we're either not following the law, or this survey is not anonymous because there's an audit trail somewhere in that from that iPad linked to the student's account. So it opens us up to a whole host of issues. So I do not believe we need to continue with this survey. And then there's an opportunity cost for the time off learning, and then just the overhead labor of shutting down 2 schools for an hour to do this. So I think all those things considered, we need to opt out of this and no longer do it. Thank you.
So I think as far as your policy ideas and opting out, we should make it an agenda item for perhaps the next meeting.
Fine.
Okay, and maybe you can give some input in the wording that you'd like to use.
I just
Melissa?
want to see immediacy of action. I don't think this needs to wait.
We all do.
Sure. I actually think it is an important survey. We've seen the results. I've been on the Wellness Committee now 3 years. The Wellness Committee does take some serious actions based on the results of the survey. However, I'm more than happy to support providing the survey ahead of time and a more robust opt-out policy.
Okay. So we've never really had this problem before because the survey never looked like this before. You know, it worked out. The questions weren't as explicit. The definitions certainly weren't on the survey. So clearly in an effort to make things better, we somehow made them worse, much worse. And I think all of these suggestions, we need to go over, develop a policy of what we're going to do, and not give any survey of this nature before
That's not what
that
she
happens.
said. She feels that it's an important survey and that it
I
should
know
be
what she
given.
said. I know what she
So when
said.
do we get a chance to speak?
Just a minute, please. Let's finish. Like any other agenda item, we discuss it, and then we'll take comments. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, again, I think there were some mistakes made. I don't want to make excuses. I'm responsible for the issues that occurred.
And I know you feel terrible because you're a bigger prude than I am. Okay, so should we go to the parent input now? Okay, so who would like to speak?
I'd like to speak first, please.
Can I have your name, please?
Yeah, well, I'm going to speak.
Can I have your name, please?
My name is Hilda Darian. Do I sit here or just?
That's right there.
stand? The mic's on?
Yeah, you can sit.
Good evening. My name is Hilda Darian. I am the mother of a 12-year-old sixth grader at Marshall Simons Middle School. I am here on behalf of my son and a group of other mothers who also have special needs children like mine. And I speak for all of them when I say that we have completely lost our trust in the Burlington public school system. My son came home last week, clearly shaken up, and asked to privately talk to me. He said, "Mom, we took a test today at school, but the questions were really weird. I didn't know how to answer them. I didn't want to take the test, but my teachers made me." It wasn't until I saw the questions posted on Facebook that I understood what he was talking about. I'd like to first say a bravo to the administration for a wonderful job they did in burying this opt-out form in Parents Square under the guise of a benign and innocent survey. Most parents, such as myself, didn't even see the form, and I check Parents Square every single day. All parents should have been able to review the survey questions beforehand, and in my opinion, it should have been an opt-in, not an opt-out survey. Furthermore, not turning in an opt-out form does not constitute permission, as evidenced by the fact that so many parents never saw the form. And the parents that did opt out were disregarded, and their children were forced to take the survey anyway. This should have been sent home by paper for our children to hand to us. But I believe the administration wouldn't have spent so much effort trying to bury the opt-out form and the content of the survey had they not already known that most parents would outright refuse it. This was a calculated and deliberate attack on our children's innocence and denial of our parental right to protect our minor children. With this survey, you have exposed our innocent children to mental pornography. This is sexual grooming and downright sexual assault on our children. You have corrupted their innocent minds by exposing them to explicit sex or sexual acts that most adults would not even tolerate being asked about. Not only were they asked about if they'd ever done any of these things, but you went a step further and described these sexual acts. How dare you step over our parental rights and expose our minor children to these lewd and disgusting acts? We have been protecting our children from the day that they were born, and in one day, you've destroyed all of our work. We don't let our children have social media, use the internet, and especially not even have a phone. You have now corrupted our children, and these children are more likely to become victims of sexual predators because they're going to think that these behaviors are normal because they were asked these questions by their own trusted teachers. If, God forbid, my child becomes a victim of sexual abuse by an adult or even an older child someday, you, all of you, as their teachers, will be the ones ultimately responsible because it was you who exposed them to begin with. If this was truly an anonymous survey, I have a few questions. One, who is benefiting? Where is this data going, and what is being done with it? Two, how would you be able to help a child who is truly at risk? You wouldn't. You would never be able to know who ticks off a yes because it's supposedly anonymous. Your argument fails. After this clear breach of trust and attack on the innocence of my child and all of our children, I have fully and completely lost all trust in the Burlington public school system, and whoever was behind this must be held accountable. And in no uncertain terms do I believe that Principal McMahon was unaware of the survey and its explicit contents. And I do not believe that Dr. Conti or Dr. Chen were not aware of it either. This was not simply an oversight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'd like to go. So my name is Jamie Weber. I've sat between this board many times. I've emailed you probably over 1,000 times because you just can't seem to get it right. I have a 16-year-old daughter who I opt out of these surveys because I have 20 years of experience of working in healthcare.
Excuse me, is your child in the high school?
Yes, unfortunately, she is in the high school. I don't know how much longer because we are looking at private school. I had one in the private school and one in the public school. Worst mistake I ever made was letting her stay in the school district. When I came to the school district, I was warned about the school committee. I did my due diligence. I said, let's give it some time. She wanted to stay. She had friends. I wasn't going to move her. The best thing I did was work 3 jobs to support my son to go to Malden Catholic. I did you a favor by not sending him here. I will tell you that. He is a great kid. He is flourishing. My 16-year-old daughter, I opt out. I started opting her out of these surveys when she was at the middle school because all the time at the middle school was propaganda, sexual. We were on the news. We had turtle boys. I mean, we do not look flattering as a district. As educators, as a district, I mean, we cannot, we're on the news. And we should be on the news right now again. This is totally inappropriate. Every year at the middle school, there was stuff taken away. We didn't do field trips. We lost traditions. And I wasn't even in the community at that time, but we didn't even want to have an 8th grade graduation or dance for these kids. But we wanted to constantly give them surveys. We wanted to constantly give them information about sexuality and making choices and safe spaces. So I was constantly at war with the principal. I got involved to ensure that we actually had an 8th grade dance and a celebration so kids got to be children, just that. I was relieved when my daughter went to the high school because I was told that the high school was a little less on the sexuality in all of these surveys and these agendas. and it's not. Mr. Conti, you voted in 2017 to expand this survey to sixth graders, and congratulations, you did. The only one that is causing mental distress for our children is this town, this committee, and the poor administration. You can't even teach the core subjects. We have teachers at the high school who should have retired 5 years ago, who can't teach science, math, and English. You can't grade it, but let's just start talking about sexuality and let's throw inappropriate surveys out. I opt my child out of these surveys because they're not appropriate and they are not run by people with medical degrees, psychiatrists, and other people. And there's no clear data that says we have risk factors in this community. I read through your articles in 2017. I saw the data. We don't have a high population of kids engaging in sexual behaviors or risks. So I don't understand what you're looking for. And I don't know who's receiving that data and what you're doing with that data, because you're certainly not educating our kids in a way that's appropriate. So my daughter sent me a screenshot and talked to me because, yes, she did say that she did not feel comfortable, and she did say that I opt her out of these things because I tell her daily, if they give you a hard time, you call me. You text me, I will come to the school. That's sad that I can't trust that my child is safe in the school. Absolutely appalling.
You need to keep your time to 3 minutes. So
Well, we have
finish up.
questions to ask. So my daughter was asked, have you ever had sexual contact with another person?
I thought you
Sexual
opted her out.
contact. I did, and
did.
she told she was opted out, but she was still told the survey was mandatory, so I have screenshots from her.
Okay.
Sexual contacts includes things such as kissing, touching, sexual intercourse. Have you ever had sexual intercourse including vagina sex, which is when a penis goes inside of a vagina, oral sex, which is contact between the mouth and the genitals, anal sex, which is when a penis goes in the anus, in parentheses, but in the use of toys or props, vaginal or anal. Have you ever sent or received sexual messages or nude or semi-nude pictures or videos electronically by a smartphone, computer, tablet, or other devices? Thank God our children have their cell phones on them. Thank God they share information. So thank God there's evidence that you expose our children to questions like this, and you do not keep our children safe in a community where we entrust our children to you. When my child tells you she does not feel safe, when my child tells you I opted her out of this survey, that means she is opted out of the survey and not to participate. Jamming 60 communication feeds through Parent Square and asking us to read every single one of them and not being fully transparent is your error, your complete error. The minute this survey went out, the minute any of these questions went out, there should have been a mandatory signed form that us as parents needed to sign before our children were ever presented this information.
Okay.
Period.
Please wrap up.
I'm going to wrap up by saying that we're going to start to organize all these parents. We're going to continue to organize. We're going to move Conti. We're going to move Mastrano. We're going to move the people that fail to protect our children, fail to listen to our concerns, and fail to actually represent our children. We're tired of it.
Okay, thank you. There is something that I want to say before the next person. I can guarantee you that this was not calculated and intentional.
And make it right. Make it mandatory, what Jeremy just said.
We're
and get it
talking
moving.
about doing that, but I want to assure everyone
But the damage is already done to our children.
I
This is what the
I
problem
agree
is.
with you.
Who's
I
gonna take
agree with you.
responsibility for that? Who's going to be held accountable?
I have friends in this district, their parents are suffering
Okay.
from cancer.
Okay,
And they're
you've-
sending out sexual content surveys to their sixth graders.
You have-
When their father's in the hospital battling cancer.
You have both had the opportunity to speak. Now, let me respond by saying it was not intentional. And the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the principal were not aware of what was on that
Then they're
that survey.
negligent.
Well, that could be, but they were not aware.
Where's our math?
Now,
math
please,
curriculum?
ladies,
Believe it for a second.
you
They
have
should-
both had a
they should
chance
have
to
read it.
speak.
They should have read that whole survey.
You're
before
right.
It was given to
We
the
all should have, but
7th and 8th
we didn't.
graders.
And it should be permanently removed from the district. We are not the only town that has come out. Grafton, other towns have come out in droves. Parents are tired of
Jamie.
sexualizing our children.
You've had your opportunity to speak. Is there someone else in the audience?
Hi, my name is Jenna Lloyd, and I have a daughter in the high school and a son coming up into the middle school next year. This is not the first time that the opt-out has had an issue. My daughter was in 8th grade. I opted her out of all surveys, and she had a debate in her classroom with her teacher when the teacher tried to force her to take a survey. And she said, my mother opted me out. I am not taking it. And she said, you are taking it. Your mother did not opt you out. We have good communication with our kids. She knew very well that I did opt her out. So it is not the first time that opt-out has been an issue. I propose that instead of having opt-out, have it opted in.
agree.
If they have surveys going out, supply the survey for parents to view, and if their parent would like their child to opt in, then they can send in the form to opt in. Blanket, everybody's opted out unless you choose to opt in, is what I would propose, because it's not the first time there's been an issue.
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Is there someone else that wants to speak? The gentleman in the back, and then, is that Adrian?
Hello,
Aye.
I'm Jerry Carney. I have two
Jerry.
children in the system, one in middle school, one in Fox Hill. I'm also a coach to actually a number of the parents in this room's kids in lacrosse, which I need to run to, so I'm going to leave after my comments. But I wanted to clarify two things. One was the comment about the definitions. In 2023, and I have a screenshot of it, the only definition that was missing was the piece about toys.
Really?
Yes.
From the
The spot,
2023?
and I can show it to you, the spot where, because I remember my son was in 5th grade, and I remember thinking, wow, this is excessive when people were sending it to me. And I remembered specifically where it said the word anus and then had to put the parentheses around butt, because I remember thinking that's ridiculous. They have to put that there because some of these children do not potentially understand what an anus is, right?
I get it.
So we're 2 years later, and the only definition that's missing from that entire piece is the last, I don't want to call it a sentence, but a statement. Furthermore, I think, beyond just this, and part of the reason why I would support what Mr. Brooks was talking about, several questions are very presumptive. They're leading. All right, there's a question about alcohol, and it says, at what age, let me read it because I'm going to say it incorrectly.
Did you have your first drink?
It says, at what age did you have your first drink? And then it says, in parentheses, more than a few sips. All right? So these kids are, particularly in middle school, they're at a weird moment in life, right? Their hormones are changing, their minds are all over the place, and we as parents, I had the fear of God put into me by my parents about those type of things. We as parents have the right to not have the only option be that that it was never, I've never had alcohol more than a few sips, right? I mean, it's just, the questions are very leading. In particular, another one, numbers 56 and 57 about tobacco. During the past month, what flavors were your tobacco products? Number 57, during the past month, how did you get your tobacco products?
I think
We're
that's-
assuming that these things have happened.
Those
And it's making
questions
them, it's ridiculous.
It's certainly not appropriate for sixth graders.
No, they're 11 years old in sixth grade.
Right.
But I do want to, I do think it's important that we realize that in 2023, that the comments about sexual intercourse and the definitions, the only one that was added this year is the toys.
Really? Can we
Yes.
get a copy of the surveys from 2023 and 2025?
They're available, both available at the middle school and the high school. And what JSI added was the additional definition in 25 that we were unaware of.
Okay, is there someone else who wants to speak? Adrian, yeah, you were next.
I think most of you know me. I'm Adrienne Simeone. I have an 8th grader right now, and last year I brought my 2 oldest kids back into the middle school. So it was, I had a departure from the public school for a little while, and so getting used to Parent Square and all of that kind of stuff was new for me. But one of the first things that popped up for me is that this is kind of a trend, that people seem to be unaware of what's going on or very tolerating of the sexualization of our children. When I was aware that my 8th grader was going to be involved in a sex ed class, we were told that if you wanted to see the curriculum, you have to go to the school and look at the 3-ring binder. So we did that, and in the 3-ring binder was this genderbread person document, which is not an educational document. This was created by someone who identifies as an author and a comedian, and it says that your sex is assigned at birth. Your sex is not assigned, it is observed. This is not the sorting hat at Hogwarts. People do not just assign your sexuality to you. This is truth. You have DNA, you have genitals. It is not assigned to you, it's not a guess. This is absolutely not an educational document. And when I pushed back about this, I was told that, oh, it's not part of the curriculum anymore. And I said, well, who put it in the curriculum? How did this document, created by someone on the internet, get into our 8th grade sex ed curriculum? And so then later in the year, I found out that my daughter attended a Spectrum Club meeting without my knowledge. And she told me that they talked about how animals act in homosexual ways in nature. They talked about mental health issues. And I'm going, what kind of club is this? That the teachers are tolerating this kind of stuff and that kids are allowed to talk this way in a club. And then when I started looking to see where the sign up was for the Spectrum Club, it wasn't on Parent Square anywhere. Every other club was listed except for Spectrum Club. There were no updates, no parental sign up, anything. It was a secret club. And so I started pushing the principal at the time to understand, why isn't this club being made aware to parents? We're supposed to trust our school administration. I can't trust them because I don't think that they have the best interests of our children in mind. You're telling me you're part of the wellness committee that looked through all these questions and you thought that was okay? I'm not comfortable. I do not trust you to be in that position. I think you should absolutely step down. This year I pushed for that Spectrum Club to require permission slip, just like all the other clubs, and it happened. But then I got a notice from someone in the school system that they were promoting an ally day where they were inviting people who were not part of the club to go to an after-school club meeting. You didn't have to be a club member. Well, what the heck is that then? It's a workaround to the parent permission. Again, I pushed back and I was told, well, clubs are allowed to do that. I'm like, this is a club about sexuality. You need to be transparent with parents. And thankfully, Tim changed his mind and said, I'm gonna make it so parents have to sign their kids up. And I appreciated that very much. Then in January, I got a picture from the middle school. The Spectrum Club meeting was promoting itself again. All are welcome for all allies and students who are questioning or are LGBTQ+. Again, we're talking kids as young as 11, kids who are going through puberty, trying to figure out their identity, getting bombarded with sexuality stuff. And this Spectrum Club is pushing themselves on these kids. And so I'm saying to Tim, why are they promoting themselves? The sign-ups are closed. This isn't in Parent Square. These things keep happening over and over again, and I'm tired of having to fight for the right of my child and every other child to not have sexual content pushed on them. They're in middle school. Please let them go through puberty without this stuff being pushed on them. Parents are tired of it. I don't like to be up here. I hate this. I hate conflict. But what I hate more is knowing the impact of kids, of this stuff getting pushed on them and normalizing it to them. I was one of those parents who opted my kid out because as soon as I saw it, I said, I don't want my kid taking this. And he took it. And I'm disgusted that he had to answer those questions.
Why did he take it?
He didn't. They told him he had to take it, and he didn't think anything of it. I had signed the opt out like a month ago, so it kind of had like skipped my mind. So it wasn't like I knew it was coming, and for him to be like, make sure when it's like the scoliosis thing, I make sure they don't have you do the scoliosis. Make sure you're not going to be signed up for sex ed. But it was like he took it because he's a boy. He's like, whatever, I'm going to take this thing. My daughter probably would have pushed back, but it's just. For the sake of all the kids that are younger than mine, at least my son has me that I talk to him about these stuff. I wouldn't be talking to my 11-year-old about this. I have an upcoming 6th grader. She's not coming to the middle school because I can't shield her from the things that the teachers, the administrators, and the teachers union tries to push through. There's so much stuff that's not coming through the curriculum that's getting snuck in, and we're tired of it. So that's all I got.
I'd like to just make a quick, something to add on to what she just said. I was one of the few parents present at the info session for when they had just started the health class at the middle school for the puberty sessions. I asked to see what slides that the children were going to be shown. They were not able to show me the slides. There was only a handful of us there. There was less than 10 parents there. I said, I'd really like to see what the kids are going to be seeing. Oh, sorry, we're having technical difficulties. We're not able to show you now. And the teacher at the time, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he promised that he would email those slides to me so that I could see them. I wanted to see what my son was going to be exposed to before he was. Did I ever hear back from him? No. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe the Wellness Committee members, there are 2 school committee members on the Wellness Committee, right? Both of you?
Who are they?
What are they
I was, through the chair, I was not at the last Wellness Committee meeting. I was at the field subcommittee meeting with Mr. Brooks. We were.
Well, do either of you know if the Wellness Committee saw this whole survey?
I did not see it. I was not presented with it. It did not come to me in an email. No, I have not seen it.
Did you see the survey with those definitions?
I did not see the updated definitions. We have the definitions, the same ones that were in 2023.
Then that's bad. That's not good for you.
The people elected you and put their trust in you to protect our children, and you're not
All right,
doing
please don't speak out. Is there anyone else in the audience, Beth in the back? Yeah, online too, how many?
Right now, 1.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Beth.
Thanks for letting me speak. I appreciate it. I just wanted to say, I just got a disturbing text while I was sitting in the audience. I opted my son out, my 8th grader out. I opt him out of everything. It's my prerogative. He took it. He said his name wasn't on the list. I just got a text with his name on a list. So it was missed. I'm just kind of processing it now, so I apologize. But it can't happen that way. It can't. And I didn't come, I wasn't prepared to speak. I cannot stand public speaking, but I just feel the need to, express my disappointment. I appreciate, Tim reached out. I appreciate that. I also don't understand why the opt-outs were even emailed, the surveys. Just leaves a lot of room for error. He didn't speak up. For anybody that's saying, oh, why didn't your son push back? He didn't push back because he's taught to listen to his teachers. He's taught to respect authority. He's taught to be not behavioral. And, you know, it's just, he shouldn't have to. I'm not going to make excuses. He shouldn't have to. He's a kid. I'm the adult. I'm his parent. I don't care if the survey was asking, what's your favorite color? I said no. I'm really upset. So I thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it. I just think there needs to be better solutions for this.
And there will be.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there someone online?
There is. Carrie, M-A-L-M, Mom.
All right. Carrie?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, so I had a whole thing written out, but I'm not going to repeat it all just because a lot of parents have very kind of eloquently said much of what I wanted to say. I am the one that posted on Facebook with all of the screenshots that my daughter brought home from 7th grade.
Thank you. Thank you. There's gonna be more of us.
Tell me what was happening in the school, and I want to thank all the parents that are here because while I hate social media, I really appreciate it for this cause, because hearing that this came out in 2023 when my oldest was in 5th grade, I never would have known about it, and I'm kind of shocked that this hasn't come out before. So it seems like posting it on Facebook and having all these people come out and just express their disappointment in the school system. Just thank you for everybody that came out. And I have to say, out of all the things that I wrote down, I've been an educator for 20 years, or 18, almost 20, in public schools, and I've never, ever seen anything like this. There are plenty of reasons to give surveys in schools. There are school climate surveys, kids' experiences within the school environment, gathering feedback on bullying, student well-being, overall safety, relationships with teachers, all of these things that would elicit valuable data that the school could use and better themselves with. I do not, under any circumstances, see the reason for these questions in this survey. The parent square situation, as I've spoken about before, and a lot of people agree with, is a disaster. And I'm really hoping that something can come out of the parent square communication, because we are just inundated with meaningless notifications from multiple schools. I'm a student in the middle school and a student at Fox Hill, and just every day, dozens. And you really just read the heading that comes through and you're, oh, it doesn't apply to me. This one came through, as another parent said, a month before, 3 weeks before. And the heading did not really make you think that it was anything you needed to pay much attention to. So it did seem a little hidden. There are also, when field trip permission slips come out, if you don't sign it, you get a notification, you get a reminder. There was no reminders about this. So it was that one and done, and if you happen to be a parent that missed it, then you missed it. And I did, I missed it. My daughter did not want to take it, but again was told, it's not optional, even though on that form that was sent out on Parent Square, it said that students could skip questions and they could stop taking it at any point, but that information was never communicated to students, as far as I know, in any class. I have not heard one parent that said, my child's teacher said that they didn't have to continue taking this if they felt comfortable. It also said in that permission slip that it was based on the CDC's version of the survey, and I went and found the 2025 CDC's version of the survey, and it is entirely more tame than the one that was presented in front of our students. Very yes and no questions. It asks about their gender, male or female. And then it asked if they were sexually active, yes or no, and that was it. So I'm not sure how we got from A to B, and nothing I've heard tonight has helped me understand that. It seems to be a lot of passing the buck to, oh, I didn't see it, I didn't see it, I didn't see it. How could all of these adults not see questions that were going in front of hundreds of kids? It's just entirely unacceptable, and as many have said, the damage is already done. So I don't know where we go from here, The damage is done. These little kids have been exposed to now they're all talking about it. You have no idea what goes on behind the scenes in middle school. These kids are all talking about what these words mean, and are you doing this? And even, like somebody else said, the leading questions about what flavor tobacco. Oh, are you chewing tobacco? All these questions are happening now because these seeds were planted in our kids' heads that did not need to be planted. And whatever happens from now on, the damage from this is already done, and somebody needs to be held accountable. I don't want to hear any more that we didn't know about the questions. We didn't know what the questions said. That is unacceptable, and somebody needs to be held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you.
And all the high school students are sharing on Snapchat, social media.
Does any-
You're saying you're taking the high school data when
Please don't interrupt.
when you're saying you're taking the high school data and you're making these kids answer these questions, and you don't know, number one, how accurate they are asking them. There are children that have been abused that got this, that I know specifically in this district that have been abused and was exposed to this. This is re-abusing them.
Jamie, please don't interrupt. Is there anyone else in the, yes, who wants to speak? Okay, and then we can go, I see two other hands, and then we have a budget meeting we have to get to.
Well, I hope there's less positions on that. More money in the budget when we get rid of some people that need to go.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Sheehan, and I have...
Cheryl.
Hi. I have a
Beautiful
son.
voice.
Thank you. I have a son at the middle school. Let me start by reading the equity statement. Educational equity means that every child belongs and receives whatever support he, she, they need to develop his, her, their full academic, emotional, and social potential to learn and thrive every day. This begins with kindness and valuing the humanity of every child individual. Ms. Masandro, let me start by asking you this. What age did you start drinking alcohol? Was it 8, 9, 10, 11? Dr. Conti, what flavor of tobacco products have you used this month? Where did you obtain them? Have you had sexual intercourse? Was it oral or anal? Do you feel embarrassed by these questions? Do you feel I'm being kind? Am I valuing your humanity? How do you think our children felt last week having to take this survey in school amongst their teachers and classmates? My son was opted out of this survey because clearly my husband read between the lines of the vague paragraph that was sent out on Parent Square during a random Thursday night 2 weeks earlier. But you know what? My son was forced to sit in the class with his friends who were not so lucky. His best friend turned to him and pointed to a question on the survey and asked my son, "Bro, what's this?" My son said he opened his eyes wide and said, "No idea. Google it." Google it. Now I come from a generation that had to look up everything in the dictionary or the encyclopedia. Most likely, they didn't have actual photos and certainly not videos on the pages. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I was better or perfect, and I'm pretty sure my class is the reason that the bathrooms are locked during bell time. But can you honestly look us in the face and tell me that this survey is appropriate for middle school or even high school? By the way the questions were labeled with the meanings explained in the paragraph before, makes one think you were trying to teach them how to do or use these things. Is that the education your equity statement is referring to? Is this the education our children are getting now? These kids are innocent, and from my experience, With my son and his friends, they weren't ready for this. But the Google feature on their electronic device has now introduced them to a world where they are not old enough to understand their feelings, but because they were given this assignment in school, it puts a little pressure on them to know what it's all about. I understand that there may be a handful of kids that have experienced something on this survey, and the responsibility of the school is to address the well-being of every child. But for the handful that may need help, you've taken away the innocence of the hundreds that now have questions and are questioning themselves when prior to last week they were comfortable in their own skin. You took the chance away for their parents to speak to them in a tasteful way. You've destroyed the chance of kids enjoying their summer break playing video games till all hours of the night, and you've piqued their curiosity about alcohol, tobacco, sexual activity with toys and props. How do you feel about that?
Terrible.
Dr. Conti and members of the school committee, answer this honestly. Was filling out this survey a requirement for state funding? If so, how much?
Was it?
What was the per child cost
No.
that the
answer's
state
no.
is shelling out?
It was not a requirement for anything.
Okay. If it was about funding, then I do respectfully ask that you do
It's
the
not.
service to the parents and the children of Burlington and resign. Especially if you feel this survey, Ms. Masadro, was helpful to the health and wellness of our children. Thank you.
Is there anyone that has,
A comment from a parent who wants to remain anonymous, but is texting me because she sees me here. And she wants to ask specifically who allowed this survey to come into the schools and where the survey came from, and whoever decided our kids should do this survey should resign. That's her sentiments, and she is a Burlington resident.
okay, thank you. Are there any people who have anything new to say instead of repeating the same thing? So, okay, I see two hands, gentleman over here, and then the one over here, and then we're going to have to move on. Is there someone else online?
Hi, my name is David Hannafin. I have kids in high school, middle school, and elementary school in the district here. So I just wanted to address something you mentioned a couple of times. That I don't want this to be framed as an oversight, and I don't want to have anything dismissed as, well, we weren't aware of what was on the survey, because I sat in a conference room with Drs. Chen and Conti last year, and we discussed this. And we talked about it, and I'd asked you specific questions. I said, well, everyone hides behind the castle model and this new social emotional learning. And they said, that's what's part of this curriculum. And I'd asked you, who's the architect of the castle model? Who's the architect? What are the underpinnings of this thing? Where did it come from? What's the structure of it? And you didn't have a lot of answers, and I provided you with some because I did my own deep dive, and I did a research project into it and said, I want to know what's being put in front of my kids and where did it come from? And if you have somebody that's in front of a sympathetic audience or somebody that's given an interview to a sympathetic journalist, they'll tell you their opinion, and we discussed this, if you remember. And I gave you the names of the people that were behind this thing. These are the people that authored these surveys. These are the people that authored the material that gets put in front of these kids as part of the social and emotional learning. And here's what they said. And we talked about it. And these people are perverse. And what they said was disgusting. There was one part where I said they kind of co-opted some phraseology from the Bible where they had said, we're going to send these kids out as missionaries, and this is the new form of discipleship. And they bragged about the fact that there's a 600+% increase in people that identify in middle school as LGBTQ in the last 10 years. That's statistically impossible. But you put these things in front of the kids, you normalize them, like Mr. Carney had said. The way the questions are framed, there's an assumed close there. Well, when did you start using tobacco? And kids, well, if you're not thinking, but maybe everybody else is, maybe I should be using it. When did you start drinking alcohol? And the questions about sex, I don't think like you said, we don't need to reiterate that. It's disgusting. So I have been told on a number of occasions, I have a blanket opt-out for all of my kids. We sign the forms, we send it in. At the beginning of the school year, we send it to each of the schools. And over and over and over again, it has not been honored. Then we get an apology. So in an email that I had sent to you last year, I was saying, each time I address one of these issues, and I'm sick of doing it, but I come up to the school, we have a conversation with a teacher, a principal, or the two of you, and they say, yeah, well, now that we look at it, we can see your point. This is an oversight. We're going to address it. We're going to do it again. It's not an oversight. I think the people have their eyes wide open, and at this point, it needs to stop. And everyone here has said that someone needs to be held accountable for whoever put this survey in front of the kids. I find it disgusting. Clearly, I'm not alone. And I'm sick of going to a lacrosse game or a hockey rink. Or I want to go watch. Tonight I'm supposed to have my son's lacrosse game, but instead I'm here. But I went to practice the other night, the night of the survey, and I hadn't seen my son yet because I didn't come home from work. I went straight from work to his practice. And there were no less than a dozen parents sitting in a circle talking about how horrible this was. And when I showed up, they knew that I'd be of like mind. So we had this discussion. I was terrified. And then I spoke to my son, who was opted out, and was told that he had to sit down. So each parent has the same story. We were opted out, and it wasn't honored. And this is not the first time. It happens repeatedly, over and over and over again. It needs to end. And it's not an oversight. So you can say, well, this wasn't done intentionally. It's been done intentionally, if not by the people sitting in this room, which I have a different opinion on. But again, who are the architects of this thing? And if I do more research than the people that are being paid to do it, that's a problem. And it's not hard to find. These people that are behind this stuff, it's disturbing. So, thank you.
Thank you. I know we have Mrs. Steiner online, and after this gentleman, we'll go to her, and then we're going to call it a night, except for the discussion among the committee members.
My name is Andrew Marcoux. Lived in Burlington 12 years. I got 2 kids in the middle school system. I had my notes I actually just deleted, so I'm going to go off of pissed emotion right now, and that is the word. This is just ridiculous, and it's not. You use the words mess and surprise. We're not surprised. I think it's the last 4 years. At the end of the year, something happens in this town. Something that just blows up. It mentioned it's been on the news. I believe it was last year. When my daughter was in 4th grade, there was a transgender flag flying in her. There's actually 2 or 3. There's also a Buddha in that class. I guarantee you, if I put a cross in there,
Or the
we would
American
hear
flag.
it. All right? They're in middle school now, and that flag just flies everywhere.
Which flag?
The transgender flag, they're all of them. Whatever you
Pride
want to do.
flag.
Pride flag.
Our
Whatever you
children are
wanna call it.
discriminated against.
Hold on. In addition, first time that I walked around the library in the middle school, just the book choice that's in there, and a sign that is read on the, I believe it is the head librarian's door, which reads read banned books. That is a direct reference to the books that are read in places like this across America right now, where people are going against this crap. But the books that they're talking about are books in school libraries are teaching kids how to go down on other kids, all right? From adults, in the books, okay? I could have brought these books, I don't know that they're in this. I guarantee you, though, at least one of the banned books is, since the librarian is pushing for it, okay? Now, I had a friend who actually texted in too. He mentioned what has been mentioned, that 2 years ago, his daughter had to take it, and he was told.
The page outside is the book. Oh, sorry.
Would you
Okay, yeah,
please
it's there.
stop interrupting?
No, that's actually on point. All right. He mentioned that his daughter 2 years ago had to take the test, and he asked for a copy. He was told he had to physically come into the office to get it, just to look at it. Couldn't walk out with it, but just to look at it. Give me 1 second. Started putting my notes back together. Yeah, we are, those of us who are unable to put our kids in the private schools, we are required by law to bring them here to school systems, okay? We are forced to trust you. Obviously, that is lost. I am expecting, well, Conti, you mentioned twice in this time here that you said you have responsibility on you and the word responsible on you. Yes, it is. All right, you okayed it. That's what it comes down to. Father, I don't know if you have kids, but a man to a man, not okay that you just let that pass through. Like, I am not okay with you, all right? I'll give you this, excuse me.
Speak through the chair, okay? Don't direct anything to other individuals.
Okay. Explain to me what I'm supposed to tell my 11-year-old daughter about butt and anus sex and sex toys. Please, I'll give you the rest of my time.
Look, I'm as upset about those comments as you are.
Also, I wanna hear the
I have
answers, though,
a
at this
granddaughter in the middle school, in the 8th grade. And fortunately, she was not terribly upset by it, but it's inappropriate. It should never have happened.
I really don't want to hear. My question is, I'm giving you my time. What do I tell her?
I think you have to explain the facts that you probably shouldn't have had to explain, except for this survey. And for that reason, I think there won't be a survey in the future, at least not for a long time. And if there is one, it will be very carefully vetted to make sure those types of definitions and questions are not in them.
Yeah, it shouldn't be there at all.
No, it shouldn't.
No, I think someone
And I
said they were
agree
two
with
very
you.
base questions. That's it. But no, not even that. It's been said 1 billion times at this point. Math, science, English. That's what you do.
Still looking for that math book.
Do it, please. Stay out of this crap. Get the flags out. And I'm not even like pushing like, oh, anti-transgender.
I agree with you.
I got it. Do it.
Okay.
Do it, please.
And
Okay.
remove the
Thank
person
you.
responsible for the survey and this mistake, as we are saying it is.
I'd now like to,
Quick statement.
yeah, okay,
As a result of this,
yeah.
my child, I'm a single mother, okay? My child came home from school and addressed me, asking if I was a lesbian and if I gender bend, because I do not have a man in my life. That is your responsibility to make sure that does not happen.
I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
Mrs. Steiner, Christine online, and then this is closing down except for the committee comments. You on, Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine Steiner. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I have a high school student and a 6th grade, 11-year-old middle school daughter. Like it was said earlier, this is not the first time this has happened. When my daughter, who is now in the high school, was in the middle school, a survey like this went out. And before I knew the questions that were on the survey beforehand, because we had to come into the school and physically come in and read the survey. No one was allowed to leave with it. I was appalled by the questions at that time, opted my daughter out, and I made it crystal clear to the district, to the school, that my children were never taking a survey in this town. They were forever opted out of any surveys that were to be given. My daughter was yet another child who told her teacher that my mom opts me out of these, I never take these surveys, I'm not supposed to take it. She was told she was not on the list and to take it. I don't understand how it keeps being said that this is the first time that this has happened, this is the first time this language has been used. It's not. This is not the first time. I would like to know if there was the option to redact questions from this survey, who decided that it was a good idea to keep these questions in? And I also would like to know, how is it that every single person of authority in this town is saying that the questions were not read, they didn't see the questions beforehand? We are sending our children to you, and they should be safe. We should know that we can trust the school when we are sending our kids to school. How is it that nobody thought that these questions should be reviewed before you decided that you were going to give them to 11-year-olds? In this survey, you had to put descriptions of things in parentheses because it was clearly known that most kids at 11 years old would not know what these things were. I feel like we're not getting any answers. Everyone's passing the buck. We deserve answers, and we deserve to know who okayed this, and everybody needs to stop saying this is the first time, because it's not.
Can you answer that for us, please?
Yeah, who's responsible for this? And what are you gonna do about it? They should resign. They should resign.
We're all asking you the same
And if they don't
question.
resign,
I hear your
we will continue
questions.
to organize, and we will continue to make sure that happens.
I hear your questions, and I will do my best to get answers for them.
Where will those answers be posted? And when will we have those answers?
All of the school committee business is done at school committee meetings.
Well,
So
we
we
should have
will
a follow-up meeting to get Jeremy's agenda
We will have
That's what
items
place,
on our
And
agenda.
again, have parents, because there's still more parents that could have.
You are inappropriate. You're out of order.
What was inappropriate was the
Stop.
content and the
Yes,
mental
you're
stuff
correct.
put on my child.
You're correct.
That was
inappropriate.
This has been years of this. This started in 5th
Stop.
grade.
Please stop. We need to keep order in the meeting. I know how you feel. I know how all of you
you do.
feel. Yeah, well, you're wrong.
Then
I know
have
how
the
every
person
single one of you
resign.
feels. I have 4
Resign
kids
them.
and 15 grandchildren, so don't tell me I don't understand. I get it. We will have items on our next agenda to address some of this.
Well, provide us accountability. Have the person
This-
resign.
We will see what comes in the
So that's just
policies
another-
in the
we're not
next
gonna do anything,
agenda.
But we won't get math and science and English, and we won't retire half the teachers at the high school and fix those issues either.
Are you going to keep this up?
I mean, I can keep it up all day long. I
Yeah,
can come
I
every day.
realize
I can go
that.
to school with the news stations and science.
okay.
I mean, if that's really what you need me to start doing, to start giving us answers.
I'm asking you to be polite in a public meeting.
I am being polite.
Well, I don't see it that way.
This is polite.
All right, so this part of the meeting has concluded, and we will,
A question?
sure.
Did the Burlington Public Schools pay for this survey? It might be,
Do we?
it's the next agenda item under PE Health. I'm just wondering if.
Do we pay for surveys?
Leahy partially funded this, and we paid.
Leahy Clinic partially funded this survey.
Look at the next one I write.
Did the Burlington Public Schools?
And evidently, we
we paid.
partially funded as well. I think you're going to see a little savings in the budget.
Poisoning our children's minds.
Okay. Thank you all for your input. We understand, we get it, we hear you. And we will continue with some policy changes on
And
these
some
matters
resignations.
at the next meeting. Thank you.
Resign. Who's ever responsible should resign. Bottom line.
Thanks for your input, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe you'll see me with the news stations out front.
The next item on our agenda is Policy AC, Non-Discrimination and Harassment.
Mrs. Monaco, can I just make a suggestion that we talk about the community custodial first? 'Cause
Oh,
we have
sure,
some
because we have
parents
the parents from the community custodial.
here. It's actually, we're trying to change the name because it's not just custodial time anymore. We're going to call it the Community Facility Report.
Okay, are there parents from Pine Glen here that want to speak about this? You want to come on up?
And Memorial.
They can speak together. You can speak together.
Oh, that's another one that needs to quit, by the way. Lions, he's got to go.
Okay, so Memorial and Pine Glen, please introduce yourselves for everyone who may not know you.
Sure, I'm Margot Bunker. I'm the PTO president for Pine Glen.
I'm Colleen Shannon. I'm Chair of Events and Fundraising for Memorial School PTO.
It's nice to see you both. Hi, Margot.
Hello.
Okay.
Me to intro.
So do you want to go or you want them to go?
Bob, why don't you just quickly, what we're calling the community facility support is what is known as the community custodial. It's supposed to offset some of the costs that community groups have when they use school facilities when they are normally otherwise unstaffed or closed. Bob, it's technically a town account that we are stewards of, is that correct?
Correct.
So, and again, we had a request to add some additional hours, and so you built those into the request?
Correct. So what we did is our buildings and grounds rental, we did a review, myself and Tiffany, and looked at what hours have been used for the past few years and as recently as last year. And then what we did is that there are some groups that don't typically use a lot of their hours, so those are the ones that we look to reduce. And then there are some groups that use more hours than we can provide them. So we have upped or increased those requests before you. There was also at a recent meeting a need to adjust the hourly rate since it hadn't been looked at in many years. So what you see in front of you tonight is a reduced number of groups. with additional hours to it with a raised cost per hour to cover our cost. One that I will take some suggestions or feedback on is that there's a miscellaneous category on this that has 40 hours, and that is an attempt to target the groups that, again, don't typically hit every one of their numbers. So as far as allocating a certain number, I felt this may have been a better idea to target some of those groups, that needed a few hours. So again, I would take feedback on that. I think that for most of these groups, however much we increase them, there is definitely room and they would accept more hours. So that's definitely a balancing act that we need to look at. So I was slightly modest with some of my increases, but again, there's definitely room to increase any of these hours, and the groups will use those hours.
So the parents, what would you guys like to tell us?
Yes, so I think our issue, first of all, we appreciate the fund for funding the janitors when we need them outside of school hours. I think that's super helpful. As PTOs, our goal is to raise money to put back into the schools, whether that be through enrichment, teacher appreciation, we help fund field days, things like that. And so what we've noticed in the last few years is that we're often trying to utilize cafeteria staff, and we're finding it counterproductive to have to be paying the cafeteria staff, and then it's taking away from the profits from our fundraising. So it's really limiting what we've been able to do in certain events. I know personally for the carnival this year, which is a tradition in Burlington with Pine Glen, we've opted out of using the cafeteria staff because it's on a Sunday and we don't want to have to pay time and a half, and it would just eat into our profits a lot. And that's our biggest fundraiser, and that's where we gain most of our money to fund everything through the year. I know Memorial had a similar situation.
So last May, when we hosted the pancake breakfast and art show, Saturday morning, we had the cafeterias workers help us with pancakes, serving, that sort of thing. The profit we would have gained, which would have been almost $1,000 from the pancake breakfast, we had to use to pay the bill that the cafeteria workers gave us. So because of that event last May, the events we've had this year, we have opted not to use them at all and just sort of work around to just be able to, have better outcomes for the fundraising.
Right. So what do you suggest?
I think we need a couple things. I think we need to maybe clarify some of the language in the cafeteria contract in terms of sort of responsibility, staffing, hours. And then, again, I think we want to try to support community groups that are coming in to use the building. It doesn't make sense for you all to spend your time and to try to raise money that then we sort of take away. I think we're just putting from one pocket into another, and we need to make that work. So, Nicole, is there, I just want to make sure we're doing this properly. Would it work the same way as the community custodial?
So there's just one thing. So there's the anti-aid amendment, and actually have a little excerpt here from the Department of Revenue. So the anti-aid amendment prohibits the use of municipal resources to assist a private group's fundraising activities, even if the activities will benefit the municipality. Public funds may not be used to assist private group organizations' fundraising activities, no matter how worthy or related the cause. For example, the school department cannot pay to print and mail a flyer by the parent teachers organization to promote a car wash it is holding to raise the monies for the schools. So I think the use of municipal funds for fundraising activities is just not permitted.
What if we don't charge for use of the building? That's not...
What's the difference between the CAF staff and the custodians?
Well, I think are the custodians here anyway, and then if it's a group, they're not fundraising, right? Is that the difference?
Yes.
So if it were a carnival is a fundraising event. If it's, a pancake breakfast where the goal isn't fundraising but networking, that would be more allowable, or am I sort of getting in the gray there?
Like if you're just calling it networking instead of fundraising, it's
Yeah.
really fundraising, it's still fundraising.
Well, could you allow some of the money that's put aside to be used for either custodial or a cafeteria?
I think that's the goal here. That's my understanding, right?
I think it's the purpose of the meeting. So if it's a Cub Scout group that's just meeting, they're not fundraising, you're saying that's what this is for? Well, again, what I would say is we tend to use the hours. We're trying to accommodate the hours. We may need to figure out if we can do it and how we can do it, and then maybe ask for volunteers or something. Bob, can we have use of the kitchens without cafeteria staff? Is that part of the issue we have?
You can have use of the cafeteria, but not the kitchens. And then you could bring a pizza in, but you couldn't use the kitchen to prepare that pizza, warm it up, use the refrigerators. Right?
And that's what we run into now, is we're all opting to do outside food that we just host in the space, but we can't use the kitchen.
So again, I think we need to look at this two ways. Let's make sure that we have enough hours. And again, we flexibly use the hours anyway. If we don't use all the hours, Bob, I just want to tell Rick that it's not like the money stays where?
It will continue into next year, or we would be flexible with groups that go over their hours. So what we say is that here is a predicted amount that each group will use, which is how we form the request. So this particular year, cheerleading needed to use a few extra hours, or they could have paid for it, where we had a group that used less. So we were able to use that money for it. So that's where we come up with this number based on, past years, current years, et cetera, of use to it. But that money wouldn't go back. It would be used to fund future or next year's projects as well. Not projects, I'm sorry, use of the spaces. So we would just continue to use that fund down to zero.
So Rick, my point is it doesn't come into the school district or anything else like that. It's really just a community account that we are stewards of. So if there's leftover hours, it just rolls over, but we can only use it for the purpose of offsetting community group costs. So that would be one aspect of this. The second aspect of this is I need to probably do some work with cafeteria staff and figure out if there's a way, Nicole, not to get around it, but to make sure that we are in compliance with the Department of Revenue. So it's probably not going to be as easy as I sort of initially, and it's not your use of the facilities, it's the use of the facilities for fundraising. That's sort of the key, so I just need to think about that a little bit, and maybe we can have some sort of exception in the contract for fundraising use of the kitchens or something. I don't really know. So is that a contractual obligation?
Yes, it's a contractual obligation that if any outside group or inside group wants to use the kitchen, that a cafeteria staff member has to be there. Because they are licensed, right? So they would carry a safe serve license to be there to operate the equipment.
Some of it also, though, is the size. Like, we're having to have 3 and 4 staff at these pancake breakfasts when it's mostly parents doing the actual cooking. So if we could even just have one.
Well, same with custodians. That is contractual, where, let's say, a group that has 50 people is definitely going to require more services than a group that has 200 people. So those numbers of attendance are definitely in both custodial and cafeteria contracts.
But the argument is that, like, usually it's like the Pineland Carnival, it's all parents serving that food.
That's probably the argument that the Board of Health doesn't want,
And we can get Board of Health permits, that's not an issue.
not to use the kitchen.
We could,
Becomes
I
a
mean,
food
in
safety issue,
theory.
and it
I
opens
mean,
up
but
to liability
we're getting
someone
a
gets
Board of
injured.
Health permit to use the outside to get around this.
Right. You could use the Board of Health permit, one-day temporary permit
Yeah.
to bring in a pizza and serve a pizza that's been prepared off-site, but not use the Board of Health one-day permit for a parent to go into the kitchen and cook and prepare food in the Burlington kitchen.
Yeah, it's a little bit like,
It's tricky. That's what we need to look at, right?
Yeah, so again, I apologize if I oversimplified this, which is why I have very talented people here reminding me, but I just wanted to make sure from this conversation, the resources are here. You've articulated the need, and now we have to try to solve the issue, and if we can't, then we'll have to figure out how we can maybe allow for outside food to come in. We can do that, but just not through the kitchen.
We do that already.
That's
I will say we
already
can already do that.
allowable and does not require a cafeteria staff.
Is there anyone else? Jeremy, did you want to speak, or Megan?
Just a couple of things that came to mind as I reviewed this was, I see there's an adjustment of hours. It seems like we dropped a few folks off the list that are normally participants accounted for. Were the entities left on this list consulted and said, hey, what's your projected hours, right? Because I know, given a blank check, they're going to take as many hours as they can, but have we right-sized this based on feedback, or is this just historical data?
No, the feedback is we'll take as much as you will give us. So the historical data added is what you have in front of you tonight. So if you all think this is too high or too little, I'll take that feedback and we can adjust it.
Yeah, like I said, I just, as I was thinking here again, you brought up Pop Warner, they're a big user. They're adding more teams this year. I believe lacrosse added more teams this year. So, because of those are two sports I just happen to know about. And, I think they're going to require more hours than are currently allotted. I can't speak for youth baseball or basketball or soccer, unfortunately. But again, I know those two, we're going to need more time allotted.
It does seem that there should be some fairness, though, and, if sports teams are already getting money and they want more, PTOs should be entitled to, I would think, equal treatment or...
Totally agree.
Through the chair, I know the youth basketball program has been expanding. We have the BYBA, and then we also have a town program that has expanded exponentially this last year. Jen Priest and John Pasapia and a few others have expanded the program. So I know that those hours are definitely going to be needed. It actually looks kind of low, given the turnout and participation that occurred last year. I'm hopeful that we can support you guys. I know what it's like to fundraise and then spend all your money, putting it together. I've been there, so I'm really hoping that we can figure this out, and I would support.
Well, it's up
way to do that.
to town meeting how much they're willing to fund for all of these different organizations, but we'll do our best.
Madam Chair, I just want to be clear because I want to make sure we follow through. So, Bob, historically, we haven't overexpended the hours that have been requested.
There are definitely years where we have expended all of them. Since COVID, participation has been a little bit up and down, which means that we have had some that have carried over and we haven't had to request the following year. Right now, we just finished off one account and we're working off an account from last year. So this request is valid for us moving forward. I anticipate this being expended in probably 1 year.
But I guess my question is, Mr. Brooks, would you like us to follow up with Pop Warner and Youth Lacrosse and Ms. Novojcik with Youth Basketball to not only look at historical data, but then to ask them what they need? So I want to make sure we're doing what you
I think
asked.
that was the spirit of the question, just, hey, if you have events planned, what do you think it is? Because as a personal fan favorite of Pine Glen Field Day and the Carnival, where I overindulge into many snacks, I definitely want to see we support them as much as we can.
Okay, we'll look into that. So I'm sorry it's not easy, but we'll try to figure it out.
Can I just comment so everyone on the committee is clear? So we did look at the historical data, and I do have that, and I can share that with you all. So any group that historically meets their allocated numbers, we have raised. Any ones that did not meet that or definitely were well under for at least 1 to 3 years, that's where we held, and anyone that's been historically under for a few years is where we reduced, right? So that's where you're seeing that. So this is not just, this number sounds good, but clearly the ones that were increased could and would request more hours if possible.
Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you. Just to clarify, so we're not talking about a change to the current FY26 budget that's in here already, right? We're not changing that. It's just a shift in how the hours are going to be used between the organizations?
This is a separate warrant at town meeting, so we're just identifying the dollar amount. It'll go into the town meeting warrant.
The town meeting warrant.
And again, it's not technically a school request or a school account. It's a community request that we sort of, we're the stewards of because it involves our buildings. So I think the town, and Mrs. Monaco can maybe give you more of this, said it doesn't make sense for a community group like a Cub Scout troop to spend their funding, or a youth basketball group to spend their money to rent a facility, a school facility that's a public facility. So the town said, we will cover the expense for that particular group. Again, I think the only glitch we have now is if it has a fundraising purpose. What Nicole is saying is, even if the purpose is positive, which it is, we can't use public dollars to support the fundraising. But again, I just want to explore that further and maybe see what other districts are doing and try to figure it out. I think clearly you have the support of the committee. I just don't have an easy answer now for that. So I think, Rick,
I didn't realize it was a warrant article.
So it'll be a separate warrant article, and typically, if we're going to add a group, town meeting has to approve the addition. So even if you all tell me there's a new badminton club that wants to use the gym, we can add it to this, but town meeting would need to approve the addition of the group and the hours. Because again, it's not really our article.
Can I also, I'm sorry, you go first.
Okay, sorry. Just a note about the fundraising thing. I think any PTO event that we have is also mainly billed as a community building event, and then the fundraising is a byproduct of that. So I don't know, as we said, we can't skirt the law or maybe look at loopholes, but our main intention is community building on all of our events that are hosted within the school. And then as a byproduct of that, we do tend to raise funds.
I appreciate that, so we'll work at it.
Thank
We'll
you.
see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we go right to the budget so the staff is here? That would be great.
Yeah, and what about this policy thing?
We'll get to that at the end.
At
if
the
we
end,
have time.
all right. So the facilities, finance, 20 minutes, FY26 budget. With facilities and finance, is there something you want to do? Is this separate from the budget?
No, this was really meant to be a budget meeting. It was an added meeting
Yeah,
because
no,
we didn't get to
I
another
know,
agenda,
but-
so we just need to get to the agenda
Okay.
agenda items that we didn't get to.
EHS.
So Burlington High School, Mark?
I used to go in first.
We were going to put you at the end, but we had
He always does, so I was
we had a
surprised.
soft heart
What
this
page
year.
is the high school?
69.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Mr. Sullivan. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Just great.
Again, high school account is on page 69 of your budget books. And Mark, again, your enrollment is staying relatively steady. You're in the process of looking at schedules and section counts. The high school, as you all know, is run by sections, so I'm not sure you're asking for any additional staffing. There was a position that was unfilled.
Yeah, so we're asking for one FTE special education teacher. It is a new teacher, a new FTE. It's a position that went unfilled probably 4 or 5 years ago. And we're just seeing an increased need for student services during the day, whether it's inclusion classes, level of need, amount of students requiring services during the school day. Our special education staff is spread really thin, so that one additional FTE in the special education department would allow us to fully schedule all of our special education students and meet all of the accommodations that they require in their IEPs. But we are just wrapping up the course selection process. We're building sections. We'll be meeting with department heads over the next several weeks to actually build the master schedule, so we'll have a much better idea on staffing and where we're at in the next few weeks. And then my actual budget, there was several increases just for some things that we have supported over the years. For example, I put a bus transportation line item. We have various extracurricular activities that participate scholastically against other schools, like the chess club. We send students down now for the 8th grade step-up day, our exchange programs, the mock trial club, and a variety of other student activities that don't necessarily have a funding source. And even if they did some basic fundraising, our buses are $400, $500, $600 to go round trip to some schools. So they couldn't possibly raise enough money. So I did put a line item in for that. And some other services, we use this company, Trad Leadership, for our student mentoring program. They train our student mentors. Their service fees are going up. I put a line item in for Mrs. Janovitz, the new instructional coach, of $400 just so she could order some supplies. We have been ordering and refreshing 1 or 2 sets of classroom desks every year, so I put that in as a line item. We've been ordering agenda books, specifically for our 9th grade students who struggle with executive functioning, so that's a line item. And then there's an increase in some of the graduation expenses just because some of the services have increased over the years so that we can have a level ceremony for our seniors.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question? Again, Nicole, I think, answered this.
Go
Rick,
for it.
the Ways and Means Subcommittee asked about the chair rentals for graduation. And Mark, a question was asked, can we just purchase the chairs instead of rent them?
Yeah, so we actually did. And Nicole, we worked with Nicole, so we actually ordered them this year. So it was, I think, $6,500 for 400 chairs. They come on risers, so we'll have those. So that cost should pay for itself over a couple of years.
So, Rick, I know that was a question from the subcommittee.
Yep, but we did that this year. Yep.
Yes.
I'm not sure they'll be here in time for this year's graduation, but we're hopeful.
Thank you both.
So,
Again, relatively level. Again, I think the requests are reasonable. And again, Mark, while you're here, I've got some questions. I know that you are down to some finalists for the associate principal position.
Yes, we have 4 finalists. We had the first candidate in today. We're doing an hour of kind of a meet and greet for the staff to come down to meet them. And then from 9 to 11, they have an interview with myself and the administrative team. Tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, the other candidates are coming in. So we should have hopefully somebody signing a contract sometime next week.
So where we're at.
And we have 4. It was a very good candidate pool this year, so we have 4 terrific candidates. So I'm very happy with the quality of people that we're bringing in.
great. Is that it on the high school?
That's it for me at the high school.
Hey, you get out early and easy. Oh, Jeremy has a question.
Yeah,
Just a
sure.
quick question. So I don't know whether to bring this up with sports or to you because it
Yep.
kind of falls over both lines.
Sure.
The robotics club has asked me several times, and I definitely told them I'd bring it up. You know, they're looking for additional funding because their costs are increasing. Their participation has increased pretty steadily over the last few years. So I don't know if that's something that could be worked into the budget or if it comes to the sports thing, how we view it here at the high school.
So we've supported them, that in the DECA Club, who 2 of our largest clubs. We've given them a line item that's supported out of one of our revolving accounts. So we have not added that into the budget, but we have supported both those clubs. I believe Eric has those numbers if you wanted to.
Yeah, so I guess I was just looking for, I know they were looking for more equipment, and along with the Pathways program, had some issues with 3D printers and stuff like that, so they were, had to rely on some MITRE mentors to do some 3D printing for them last year to get to competitions.
Yeah, we've ordered some equipment for Ms. Trouve, who is the Business Pathways, last year, and we're ordering some this year. And I speak to Mr. Khan pretty regularly. I believe they have everything they need currently. But if not, we can look at increasing the amount that we're giving them.
Again, we have supported them regularly. We'll want to continue to do that.
Yeah.
All set? You're off the hook.
Thank you very much.
Next, curriculum.
Again, Dr. Chen can speak to curriculum. What line is this in?
Page 34.
Page 34. So, again, Lisa did a lot of, Dr. Chen did a lot of consolidating this year in her budget. And so, again, appreciate that.
You need my computer?
That work.
Okay.
Or you can have mine, Lisa, if you.
Yeah, Basically, in a nutshell, what I did is I took a lot of the professional development so that I would understand what was going on in each of the departments, and had worked with Nicole to streamline it so it would come into my department, so I would know like the progression of what was going on pre-K through 12. And the translation costs are just simply because we've got, an increasing number of L students and population of students. The applications is something that I work with on a regular basis with dentists to make sure that these are apps that we need, but there really isn't anything out of the ordinary, except that the warrant grant that I'm going to later on talk about, which is the funding for the new K through 5 Amplify CKLA curriculum.
That's a separate warrant article.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Is that next, literacy? Did you just cover that, too?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, math? Math. That's what it says, math.
Yeah, it's covered.
Social studies.
Covered.
Okay.
Music.
Music.
We have,
I know who we have. We have that guy right there, John Middleton Cox.
Oh, okay. Good evening, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you, and I've been seeing a number of you at different concerts, the all-town concerts and things, so it's great to have your support. As I'm sure many departments are facing increased costs, and so I felt I had to advocate for my department. Bob has a slide if you wanted to share that. I also have handouts just to kind of summarize. I did go through the budget line by line and tried to find places where we could reduce to try to come to the level funding. Unfortunately, we was not able to do that, and so I'm asking for an increase, and you can, yep. And I have the handouts. I don't know if you want to take a look at those, but there's certain things, contracted services cost what they cost. People, as programs continue and years go on, we need to, they're charging us more to do the services. The other big expense I'll just highlight is the winter percussion, which is a competitive group that is growing, and the marching band has been growing, and they don't wear the old woolen uniforms that we've from the old days. They wear these show shirts, which need to be purchased every year, and that's what to be competitive. So that's an expense that we don't want to pass on to the students. So the school has been trying to cover that. We've had to rely on our BPAPA, Burlington Performing Arts Parents Association. So, yep, here we go. Thank you.
And I'm going to pause this because we're not going to share this one. You can submit that to the school committee.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you. So with
The budget's on page 94.
Bob, do you have the main budget?
I can get it.
So at the bottom line is it comes to about $7,600 that I'm asking for an increase. So with respect, thank you for listening.
John, thanks for coming tonight. Mr. McMahon was here last week and talked about middle school musical this spring. Is that
right?
So we're excited to.
Yes, for our first time ever, we're having a middle school musical, and it's actually going to perform here at the high school in the Fogelberg Performing Arts Center. And they're doing the production they're doing is Disney's Descendants.
Oh.
The story of the children of some of the heroes and some of the villains from the Disney movies. So it's a cute story. They've been working on that. So the high school musical is opening on May 16th, and then the middle school musical goes up on May 30th and 31st. So really excited about that.
What is your summer musical going to be? Have you?
We're signing the contract, getting ready,
Okay.
so I don't want to say it just by Friday.
Because I know there's a lot of little
Yes,
ones that
there's
want to
a lot
know
of-
what's going on in the summertime.
That's right. We're gonna put it out on Friday on the
Okay,
website.
we're anticipating.
Kids in my house that are eagerly awaiting that.
I know that there are a lot of little kids wanting to know, what's the play? What's the play?
John, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. I was trying to get acclimated to it. Oh, you knew.
I knew.
You knew. Good evening, Joe.
Full disclosure, I have seen The Descendants too. It's a good show. I have 3 daughters at home, so I've seen the movie. It's good.
104.
All right, what you got for us?
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
My
Joe
budget is
Lovato.
pretty standard. I'll just highlight a couple of items. It's not really a big increase. It is a slight increase, about $800. So we'll continue to administer the PSAT examination. We do that every fall. The district pays for all grade 10 students to take the test. At this point, our juniors do have to register, sign up, and pay. Maybe in the future, we could look to cover that cost for all our sophomores and juniors. But for the purposes of next year, we will continue the way we've done it for the past 7 or 8 plus years. Good opportunity for our students to get the experience of a standardized test, so we plan to continue with that. SCORE. So SCORE is our college management program for school committee members that have had children go through the high school. We used to use Naviance for quite a long time, a well-known software program, but we started to use SCORE about 2 years ago. We have good feedback on it. Students like it, staff like it, the counselors like it. Again, it's a college software program that allows students to do college searches, and also we use that to communicate our transcripts and teacher recommendations directly to colleges. We plan to continue with them. Other highlights, now that the counseling department does do quite a bit with the schedule, so we do a training that with Aspen every year just to stay up to date. Aspen is constantly making new updates with the master schedule process, so we will continue with that. We host parent breakfast throughout the year, so we certainly cover the cost of a for parents. We've updated some of our topics. We started a dual enrollment parent breakfast last year, which was very popular. This year, we have a new topic on students with disabilities that go to college, and we have some people from local colleges coming to talk to parents about how disability services look at the collegiate level. We actually have someone from Holy Cross coming here who is very excited to come because her whole family went here. Her last name's Mayo, but her whole family had gone through the Burlington Public Schools, so she's really excited to be here. And we have someone from Salem State and Berkeley College of Music all coming to talk to students about that. That's in April. But again, we're looking at our breakfast topics every year and trying to work on our outreach to parents. We do a summer college application workshop. We've been doing that for about 6 or 7 years. What we have found the last 2 years is we added an element of bringing in an English teacher to help students write their college essay. And Miss Nedishin and Miss Rose worked with us last year. And again, school counselors are here as well to talk about whether it be SATs, using the Common Application, things around the college piece. But the essay was a very popular topic. And we had the English teachers work with students in 20-minute clips throughout the day. They were here for, say, I think 4 or 5 hours, and they filled right up, both teachers. And so we want to add an English teacher to that, so we added to that. We work with a national and a state-wide organization, ASCA and MASCA. We'll continue our memberships with them. And then lastly, for the contracted services, we work with a program called U-Science. This is actually new this year. U-Science is a career management, a career aptitude-based assessment that helps students think about college and career. I think that's an area the counseling department at the high school is focused on more so in recent years. We talk about pathways and things like that. We're trying to allow students the opportunity to go through this particular program to start to think about what they may want to do in the future, where their aptitudes tend to lean. So we are working with them. We're rolling this out with sophomores this year. And there was a component for 8th graders as well. And I know Mr. McMahon and I had a meeting a few weeks ago, and Diana Wiley, the 8th grade counselor, we're going to try to pilot it with some 8th graders too. So that's the contracted services. Supplies are pretty straightforward. And then equipment. We are asking for an iPad for our department. We have an iPad in our counseling suite where all the counselors are housed. We've been tracking foot traffic for our students. Counselors also meet with students in groups, and so we're trying to capture that data too. I think it's great, not just for me as the supervisor of the department, but for the counselors as well, to see our foot traffic. This year, since September, we've had about 2,600 visits to our office for one reason or another, so we're tracking that, and interestingly enough, it's pretty equal amongst each counselor with the foot traffic. So we want that extra iPad to try to capture all the group work the counselors do as well, so that's why we requested the iPad. That's it.
Anybody have questions? So did you say your budget increase was about $800?
Yeah.
And in general terms, is that for one or two different things?
I think it's just natural increases, like I mentioned, English teacher,
everything, yeah, all right.
paying an English teacher in the summer, the PSAT examination, so we have to base it off the number of freshmen right now, which is a little bit higher than sophomores, so I think those are just general increases.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, is there anything you need?
What's that?
Anything that you need?
An iPad?
What are we talking about, school right now? I'm kidding.
I heard an iPad.
At this
Yeah.
meeting, you never know.
You did hear an
We talk
iPad.
about
So
a
I think
lot
that
of
would be
things.
one of the things in terms of technology. But I think right now, in terms of the counseling department at the high school anyway, we, I like, that we're exploring and have now using some new platforms that we hadn't been using in the past. The counselors seem to be, on board with these platforms. And again, the key is the student end of it. SCORE seems to be well received by students in terms of the college search process.
I've attended, I think, one or two of the breakfasts, and they're very well attended, so.
Yeah, it depends on the topic. But yeah, our freshman parent breakfast we do every October tends to be 50, 60 parents, which is great. Again, I'm curious to see next month with the disability discussion. I'd like to see parents at that as well.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thank you very much.
So, next item is the athletics.
Mr. Hart.
117.
Thank you.
Did you hear that one?
How you doing?
Good evening, everybody. I feel like it's The Price is Right. I just wanted to ask for $7.52 when I came up to beat Joe, but that was it. I guess I'm the anomaly in our budgets. Obviously, I've been watching the school committee meetings, and everybody that's come up has said the same things. Prices are going up. Everything's going up. I mean, I think we all know everything's going up.
Market's going down.
And the market's going down, right? Again, I just wanted to start with a little preview. I know since last time we were here, just a quick update. We're 31 varsity teams. We're 29 sub-varsity teams in the school right now. We're averaging close to 400 every season, sometimes over, sometimes right under. So again, numbers are fantastic for the school that we are. Since the last time we met in the last budget meeting, if you would, we've won 18 league championships. We've won 2 state championships. We have 10 or more individual state championships. So I can't say that things are going poorly here. We have great kids. We have great coaches. You guys have always known this. And we've had great support from all of you. Dr. Conti, I'd like to give a special shout out to Bob over here. Again, behind the scenes, working with the fields that are going on right now, and Jerry and Navarchek over there, doing a lot of work to help us get to where we need to be. And I think all of those things are budgeted in so many different ways. So I think a general thank you and appreciativeness from our student athletes to you is warranted. So I just want to say thank you with that. Again, in just looking at the budget overall, we're fortunate at times that we have our revolving account that we've been biting out of for a while now. I know a couple years ago, we had a conversation about athletics took a hit to their equipment budget. Again, in the world of rising costs, again, I think that to review that, to perhaps bring money back to that, we're looking at those things. Our facilities, in every facility we use, the rates are up in every facility that we attend, and we are at several of them, between pools and ice rinks and golf courses and everything we do. There is nothing that has come in under budget. And I just think that's an important thing to say.
John, can you just do very quickly, we have a lot to get through, but the concrete example you gave me of the uniforms, you said when you first got here, it would be...
Yeah, our uniform when I first got here in 2015, it cost me $2,500 to buy a home, and it cost me $2,500 to buy an away. That was the standard for what we were doing.
For a team?
For a team. And we just did baseball and softball, and it was $12,000. I mean, my baseball team has 18 boys on it. My girls' softball team right now sits at 13 right now. It cost us $12,000 to buy that uniform. Again, and we have some mandatory things that are coming up. I mean, like our MIA increases, officials are getting a raise next year. We have nothing to say about that. We pay them or we don't. So again, it's a 10% raise over 3 years.
Is this your way of telling us your budget's going up?
Thank you, Ms. Monaco. I appreciate your time. Again, we're doing the best we can with what we have, and we know that you guys are doing the same thing. So again, our budget has some increases in it. Whatever can be looked at can be looked at. I did put in an opportunity for adding some coaches, and I think that was more to put on your radar than a need. I think that in the contract negotiations, we've had these conversations. I think there's been I think there's a community outcry for more people engaged with our kids. You know what I mean? And we haven't updated those charts or looked at coaching opportunities in a long time, and certainly not in the years I've been here. So I just think that to put that on the radar and to make sure we know that just looking for some type of change moving forward in those realms are things that we're going to have to look at. And I understand that this may or may not be the right time, but we have to start at some point to look at them. So,
any questions?
Good.
I have one comment about the moving out of the revolving account.
Sure.
I assume the revolving account is somewhat funded from like the cost to go to the games.
Correct.
So I brought it up before. I haven't been to a paid game in a little while, but are we still charging the students to attend games?
We do.
Okay. I'd love to kind of reduce the barrier. I mean, I think we want as many students as possible to go to these games, and I think charging seems a little bit counterintuitive, especially for some of the lesser attended games. And if we're moving to a little bit maybe more sustainable model of funding, then maybe there's an opportunity, it doesn't have to be today, but similar, to look at that structure of how we can get more kids to be able to attend the games.
Well, and just to be clear, so you know, I mean, football, hockey, basketball are the only sports we charge for.
Okay.
So again, that shows you that there's a decent base that follows that.
Okay.
And actually, I was approached by a group of students in our educational leadership group, and they have a presentation for me tomorrow or Thursday because they have some ideas on a shift that they want to produce to show me, and I'm looking forward to see what they have to say.
I'd love to see that, yeah.
So.
Any other questions? Jeremy?
Just a couple quick ones. So I know esports is growing. Is there a way to leverage our tech refresh schedule to absorb some of this cost versus a separate line item? Is there some kind of economy of scale we can get by doing that through esports?
So Dennis Villano has been great. Dennis has helped us in every way he possibly can, and I think Leroy and Nolan have done a great job growing the program. I mean, they in their second year, they lost in the state final this year, and they've only been a 2-year program, so I think that was hard for them. But the program's growing. The flex with those kids has been amazing. The place to go, something to do, has been really great. So Dennis has been great. So again, part of our problem is we started 3 programs here a couple of years ago, but with a 0 funded budget. So we're doing for them what we can, but we can't do anything more because we've stayed 0 funded for so long.
Through the chair, Jeremy, quickly, I think these computers are a higher grade than typically what we're
Gaming
using.
systems that don't really fall into the...
So I think Dennis is looking at them as an overall purchase. Nicole, you might have pulled the line out, but I don't think it's necessarily a separate technology purchase in terms of we're looking at the same vendors, but I believe these computers wouldn't be part of a larger computer purchase just because.
What they require for,
Yes.
yep, I understand.
I'm not sure I'm saying it
Yep.
well, but the horsepower, they need a higher horsepower.
I get where you're driving at.
And fewer of them, because again, you can only play 2 or 4 at one time. So again, you don't need 30 of them, you need what you need.
Yeah, it was just a question I had, because again, there's both esports is listed in both line items for equipment, so I was just thinking if there's economy of scale there. And then just the athletic supplies, hard goods, like, what's an example of that? Because it's a 55% increase, so I'm just kind of trying to understand that.
So again, right now for us, when you look at the overall pieces that we're buying, again, baseballs, softballs, again, everything by scale has just increased so much. And what we've always tried to do is have those things that you need and those couple of things put away because you run out or you need something in an emergency or in a pinch. You know what I mean? So again, even just hats for our baseball team this year is $700. You know what I mean? And those are
pucks, you told me?
What's that?
Hockey pucks, you told me?
We're trying to stop hockey. We save a lot of money.
No, what you said, just on pucks you spend.
Oh, I spend thousands because you need a case for the girls, you need a case for the boys, then you need your game pucks. You have to have 10 game pucks at every single game. So the rules in the games themselves sometimes prohibit the amount of buying you have to do for some of the scopes. Again, with baseball, with coaches, we've had one baseball coach here for 1,000 years. Well, in the rule book now it says that a student cannot be a base coach in baseball. So I'm automatically put at a disadvantage because I have my coach coaching third, but nobody can coach first because we don't pay another coach.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So we figure those things out and we do it. But again, sometimes it's rules prohibitive, like the officials.
Yeah, like I said, I was just trying to get a little more insight into what the supplies kind of turned into. That's all.
Anyone else? I just have to tell you a little story that I think is funny. My son was in high school, and he played baseball, and I accidentally washed his white uniform with something red, and it turned pink.
Yeah.
And I could not get it white. I stood on my head, and Jim Curtin was the coach, and I called him up, and I said, "Jim, have you got another uniform?" And he did, because like you said, you have to have things for emergencies, because my son would not have worn a pink uniform.
Right, and again, you laugh, but I'm going to tell you that happens to me 15 times a year.
I was horrified at the time, and
Right.
now it's,
It's common practice. That's why you have to buy more uniforms, so that when somebody like you comes along, I can switch out their kid's uniform. All right, thanks, everybody. Good night.
Okay, next item is physical education and health.
Nicole, what number is
122.
122? I believe that is,
Amy.
again, the same supply costs that have gone up, but it looks like there's a $2,400 increase request for physical education. Again, the staffing levels are remaining the same. And when I talked to Amy, it was mostly inflationary costs that she was trying to account for.
When are we going to have the actual budget hearing and voting and all that?
Is that in the calendar, Nicole?
Yep, that is on April 8th.
Okay.
April 8th,
Correct.
which is next week.
Yeah. Yeah, it is next week. Science Center.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, props. I know, why, where's the owl? I really wanted to see the owl.
I did bring a video for when I talk. Hello, everybody. Mine's pretty easy. We've been level funded for as long as I've been here, 25 years. Our supplies budget, or general supplies for Science Center kit materials and science materials and animal supplies is remaining the same. But we do have a contracted service budget. And out of that budget, number one pays the farmer for our chick hatching. That's all throughout the kindergartens. And also for weekend animal care, I pay one of the custodial staff to care for the animals on weekends. weekends. And I think last year and this year, I've slightly increased to help bring that level of pay up to what is standard for the contract. And then this year, the chick hatching eggs did go up a little bit, which I'm able to cover. So it's a $575 increase for my contracted services. The vet care also for the animals comes out of that contracted service, which has also gone up. So I did increase mainly to pay that custodial staff the right of trying to be in level to the contract, and also just to support those other two items slightly. And Mrs. Massardo, I know you were talking about being very excited about something. If you can share the video, I opened the chick hatching incubator. Today was the beginning of hatch day, and this is what it looked like this evening.
Oh, wow. Where is it, Wendy?
It's in the Science Center. This is my master incubator. And then we have 14 classroom incubators spread out throughout every elementary school and every classroom. And today was the first day they started hatching. Tomorrow will be the second day. And then the hatch is over, and they stay and raise them in the classroom, and they journal, and it's in line with their science standards of watching something change as they grow through life cycles. And they will care for them till next Wednesday, where I pick them all up and bring them back to the farmer where I got the eggs. So I raise them for the first.
About it.
Yeah, so I raise them for the first 18 days so the teachers don't have to worry about it. I supply a weekly video, the first one me going to the farm and meeting the farmer, and then meeting the incubator at the Science Center. Day 7, they get a video where the chicks are still in the eggs, and I candle them on a little light machine so they can see what the difference between something that's fertilized and not fertilized, the embryo. And then day 14, where the chick is fairly developed and they can actually see legs and movement within that egg, they learn about all the parts and how they function for the baby chick inside. I do a chicken and egg program at all the schools, and they also get to meet my chicken coop at home, which they're all excited about. And then today was the day. I was getting texts and messages and emails all day long how excited they were. And one of the things when students get older in either middle or high school, this is something they remember. Even as adults, they come back and they remember this experience. So I appreciate your support, and just thought that was literally taken right before I came to the meeting, so I have to kind of go back in a little bit and put some of the babies into the box. But super exciting. 25 years later, it never gets old doing it. So I know you were super excited
My
too.
kindergartner's been asking about this since the kindergarten screening, when I think somebody mentioned to him that, oh, kindergartens get chicks. So he's been almost a year now.
Yeah, so the excitement is just as live and fresh for me. So again, we thank you for your support. And that's my my budget presentation, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wendy, one of the things that separates Burlington schools is the Science Center, so it's a long tradition, and thank you for continuing to champion that effort and bringing kids the experiences of, what do you say, the museums and everything else, the aquariums, and you bring it right
science,
to their
bringing life.
classrooms.
Science is life. Yeah, that's our motto. Science is life, and you're welcome. And thank you again for all your support.
Any questions for Wendy? I just have one request. Please bring the owl to
Next
visit
time,
us.
I will. She's outside in her cage if you want to do a spin around and see her. So she's doing well. But thank you all. We appreciate your
That
support.
owl is just like, wow.
Scout is her name.
Wow.
Yeah. We appreciate your support. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Okay, Art?
Art. Let me get there quickly.
Is this
We're trying to
Brothers Night,
conflict. He wasn't able to
Jeremy?
make it. But here's
This
an
Brothers
increase.
Night?
Yeah.
Page 140.
Hi,
140.
Jason.
No increase.
Again, George had a conflict tonight, but he's at 0% increase, so he's literally level funding from fiscal '25 to '26. Again, he does a great job. Our art teachers do a great job, so want to, again, thank him for bringing in a level budget, but also, more importantly, thanking all of our visual art staff for, I think, just developing a great program, and that program is district-wide, and If you have the opportunity, sort of towards the end of the year, there's always an art show that, where some of the students' work is highlighted, and it's just, they just do phenomenal work. So I just want to thank George and his staff for bringing the visual arts to Burlington students. So again, shouldn't be a lot of discussion. We'll try to get George here in front of you so you can hear from him directly, but he's at 0%.
Okay, and we don't have new or old business here, but I would like to ask for a few things based on tonight's meeting for another meeting.
Madam Chair, just before we get that, we
yeah,
do need...
the policy.
Not just the policy, but Bob put something in front of you. It's a continuation from last meeting that you asked us that we just didn't finish, so I would say it was sort of a tabled agenda item.
Yeah.
You asked us to put some different options together for you, and then we need to get this to Town Hall so it can go in front of Ways and Means. So Bob and I took in all the input. Bob sort of looked at that, and we really are supportive of option 5. That's the one in front of you that allows for one of the vestibules, and then we'll explain our justification why the vestibules, why we're just doing one, and then again takes out essentially the Bob, make sure I do this right, the facilities audit, the intercom system, the backup generator, and the power washing would be the things that were removed. We felt like with the vestibules, they would each be built one at a time, not simultaneously. By the time we got to the second one, even if it was designed, it would be April or May of next year, and we feel like we'd be very close to asking for that in fiscal '27 and not lose any time into getting the vestibules up and functioning. So we felt like that was a way for us to continue to move forward. Again, just so there's no surprises, you'll be seeing a vestibule in the warrant articles for fiscal '27. We're going to do this sort of as a two-phase project. But Bob, you felt we couldn't do both. The timing of this would be that we would be right around this time next year when we would be ready to start the second vestibule.
Yeah, I'm not confident saying to the committee that we have a contractor that will handle both jobs at one time. This would definitely have to go out to bid. This would not be handled in-house. So I could not confidently answer to you all that that could happen simultaneously. So
Which one are you doing first?
my recommendation, since we just had Pine Glen under major construction last year, would be to shift to Francis Wyman and then follow back up with Pine Glen next year. That's just a suggestion.
All right, does anyone have questions?
Just one. So if we hold off on the vestibule, has that been added to the capital plan? So we communicate this out year over year, letting, Ways and Means Capital know that these are all costs they need to account for that are coming down the pipe.
It has not been shifted yet. What's in the capital plan right now is what's in front of you. If you vote any of these off, and we will carry them forward.
Oh, yeah, I'd ask that we carry that forward,
yes.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, you looking for a vote, or what do you want?
If you tell us option 5, then if the committee would support that, again, that's the recommendation.
We move forward.
What?
No, we don't need a vote.
Oh, you don't
Just
want a vote?
choose an option.
Can I
And
make a suggestion, please?
yes.
I think standard procedure is that this committee has to vote on each individual
Yeah, we do.
item that they want to go forward, so I would please ask for that.
You want it now?
Please, if you are
Okay.
in agreement with these.
Sure. Okay, so we need a motion for each
Did I get a
item that we're going forward
motion
with.
for the curriculum K-5 literacy program and materials and services?
So moved.
Second.
Mary, tell us if you need us to stop or restate anything.
Bob, do you need the dollar amount?
Yes.
Yes. At $578,722.40.
Mary Ann, they're on the sheet that you have in front of you.
Option 5. Yeah.
Option 5.
Okay,
It's been moved.
it's been moved and seconded.
You can change it. We're all here.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Are we settled
Uh,
with implementation? Because that wasn't your last meeting.
No, not yet.
Okay.
That's going to be the 8th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the next item.
Ms. Massardo, did you want to do it?
I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
I move we support the Green Communities BMS for $276,888.70.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any question or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, next item.
I move we support the building envelope and vestibule for one school at $335,500.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Question?
So is the 335 for one or both, Bob?
335 is for one, it's 671,000 for both.
Okay, the description had both of them in there, I'm good with it.
What?
The description had both, so I'm good.
Yeah, that's why I clarified just one.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Move we support the article network equipment rate for $637,194.70.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed?
I move we support the security upgrades article for $54,747.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Are you okay with all these, Rick? You don't have any questions? Okay.
I move we support tree maintenance for $50,000.
Second.
Ugh. That's changed. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any conversation about it? Discussion, question, all in
The
favor?
quotes were around $50,000.
Is there
It was 54 something.
Right, so I have quotes right now that are roughly around that number. I'm okay with reducing it right now, since this is a first request in front of you and also in front of town meeting. So I'm okay with
Where are these trees?
in the backup, so it's at all of the schools. Ones that
All right.
we're watching that are dangerous.
Okay,
My question was, is there room to add any more? Is there room?
If you look at the numbers below on all 5 options, that 29 number was the target number. So I tried to make them consistent, which is why I reduced that one. On option 5, by removing the intercom and adding in the middle school furniture, there's about a $60,000 increase, which brought this number up over the $3 million threshold. So again, to make it consistent, I reduced the tree one down to 50. I think I'm comfortable at that because I still have some money that we typically pull out of our operating budget for this. But I think because there's a large number of requests, this would help us get going.
all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Next item.
I move we support the boiler room maintenance for $69,873.10.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, all of this are so far unanimous, okay? 400.
I move we support HVAC maintenance in the amount of $753,500.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 400.
I move we support the middle school furniture line item for $101,000, $38.69.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 400.
I move we support the scoreboards and technology article for $98,950.70.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 400.
I'll oppose that one.
You're opposed?
Correct.
410. No, 310. Why are you opposed? You want to just talk
We
about
need
it?
to, I mean, we're talking about renovating the high school. I know we can reuse them, but there's a lot of talk around how we're going to renovate the space, what we're going to do to renovate that space, and that should be captured in the cost of that space. So I don't feel it's prudent to spend the $100,000 right now. Plus, it gets us a little closer to our target for what the town's given us. So I think it's an easy one to delay slightly and get us a little closer to our target.
Do you want to comment on that, Bob?
I think, what do you call it? I think the committee member is entitled to his opinion, and I appreciate that feedback. I think the 2.9 number is comfortable talking with the town manager. I think there is a want that the scoreboards be replaced at the capacity level that the athletic director has just discussed with this committee about the number of events that are played in our facilities. Also, that we don't have a plan for the high school yet, so we don't know when those will actually be replaced. As you know, Mr. Brooks mentioned that these scoreboards, if purchased for the high school, would go there first. If we were to build a new school, they would not go to waste and they would be moved on to additional. I mean, we do basketball and at least Memorial, Marshall Simons, Francis Wyman. So we definitely have a use for them. But this isn't just about scoreboards. This is also, I'm sorry, not just about basketball or indoor scoreboards. There is a request for outdoor scoreboards and audio technology as well, too. So I think the athletic director would clearly stand behind this request.
Okay. Well, we already voted it anyway.
Yep.
Okay, so that's all of them, right?
That's it, yep.
If I could just comment, please, there are 3 additional ones that are optional to you all. They're separated intentionally. So there's a school committee request, which you all voted on. Thank you for that. And then the 3 additional ones that are optional are community custodial, the middle school phase 2, and the middle school field bathroom facility. These would all come outside of the school committee's request. It's really just whether or not you all choose to support them moving forward.
I have 2 questions. Is the 2.9 within the amount that the town has agreed to?
Thank you for that question. So this one's actually twofold. So really, talking with John Denizio, the town manager, he would like to see this number closer to 2.425. The reason he's acceptable to 2.9 is because of the network equipment E-rate. So about every 5 years, the town asks town meeting to support a network refresh, and that is typically a large number and financed over multiple years. This year, we're pulling the portion out of equipment that would be only in the school department because that equipment is eligible for rebate through E-rate funds. So either way, we're still going to request it, whether or not the town meeting wants to support it. The reason we're showing it here is because we can take advantage of the E-rate funds minus the total of the overall project.
And the rebate brings us down to the 2.5.
If we were to pull out the $600,000 from this request, we wouldn't get to add $600,000 worth of additional request. We would just ask for 2.5, and that 600 would go into the towns. But we really want to show, because it's a school request for the network equipment, that 600 sits here, and you all vote on that.
All right, I move that we support the community custodial article for $74,783.
Second.
That's the one we previously discussed.
Right. Any discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Before you go on, the MS Field Phase 2.
This was what was broken out of.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just want to know from both Bob and Eric, do you highly recommend we go forward with these? Are these real school committee requests? Are they rec and school committee? You know, where do we stand with these? Because it's big bucks.
Yeah, it's school property. I think we broke it apart at town meeting. I think we told them that we would be presenting Phase 2 this year. So, Bob, does JD have a placeholder for us? So this would be just a warrant article discussion with town meeting?
That is the conversation that I had with John Denizio, is that last year was presented outside of the school committee's budget, and that it was broken up into Phase 2, and that we feel that this year, Phase 2 should also be outside of the school committee's budget. So this would go as the same request as a community custodial.
My concern, I'm supportive, but my concern is that last year, Ways and Means did not support us, and we kind of flew in their face and really annoyed a lot of people by pushing forward the first phase. and I don't want that to happen. So I think if we're going to do this, we need to have an extremely solid plan and reasoning for why Ways and Means should support us.
Again, my suggestion might be a little bit of timing here. I think we need the vote tonight to move forward to get it on the warrant and in front of Ways and Means. If they don't support it, you can always, as a committee, pull the warrant article if you want, but if you don't vote it tonight, you won't have the...
All right.
Can I just add too as well, sorry through the chair, is that my personal belief is that last year's conversation may have put this project outside of the anticipated budget request for allocated funds available, whereas for this conversation, Ways and Means and Town Meeting have not approved it yet, but at least the town is anticipating this in their overall dollar request for it.
What about the bathroom facility?
That one, when we get to that conversation, would be in a similar boat as last year. The town is not anticipating that
Okay.
one, so if you all need to have that one, is going to be a different conversation that we have to
And
have.
currently, at the Marshall Simons, do people go up to the gym for the bathroom facility?
The porta potty.
There's porta potty there, and depending on the event, most likely, no, they don't go to the school, but depending on the event, the school may be open for that reason.
Depending on the event is the key words there.
Most likely, it is not open for that event.
All right, go ahead, Melissa.
I move we put forth the Marshall Simons Middle School Field Phase 2 study, not study, sorry, $1,710,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Would anyone like to talk about it?
So I think this falls into the conversation we've been having recently about the prioritization of fields and field assets with the Recreation Commission and rectifying some of that. If you look at the totality of costs, you're looking at about $3.2 million. We asked for 4.7 last year. I really want to get this done. I just don't know if we would receive the same support we did last year. So I think, again, I'm very supportive of it. I want to get it done. I just don't know that it will get done.
You mean you don't know that it will get past a town meeting? Okay.
I'm generally in favor of putting it to town meeting to make that call.
Correct. Yep.
I have a question about timing. So if for some reason we move forward with NC5, how would this all line up as far as building on the field, the high school field, and then needing that space at Marshall Simons for games for high school sports? How would that all line up? In your mind, Bob?
In my opinion,
Yeah.
I think that we would probably be 2 to 3 years ahead of any construction that would happen at the high school, even if we were to streamline that process. If we are looking at this for either a this year or next year project, I don't believe that we will have shovels in the ground, but I could be wrong. That's just my assumption that we may not have shovels in the ground 1 year from today. So I think this field project would be done prior to that.
Did you already make the motion? You did.
I did.
So I guess my question about this is there a holdup going on because of
There is.
conservation issues?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
And so that's in the first phase.
Correct.
And
New information has come to light about the wetlands. There is a determination that Mr. Cuna and Conservation is working through. So there was a broken pipe discovered. There's some discussion back and forth about how to handle it.
Yeah.
Because that discussion were delayed slightly. We will be in front of Conservation on the 10th.
Correct, next week on Thursday.
The 10th. Hopefully to get a determination. Again, I think adds a little risk to schedule, and we really need to understand confirmation or Conservation's willingness to approve our notice of intent. I think, again, to Mr. Cuna's point, this can be phased so that Phase 1 would wrap up. Phase 2 could begin the next summer, because it's going to take that long to plan anyway. So with the schedule delay, even if there is one, it doesn't impact schedule for Phase 2.
so the Phase 1 plan if it's determined that that needs to change because of the conservation issues, would that be a long delay in changing the plan?
I'll answer that one. So it's going to depend on what they determine.
Right, but I think they're really concerned, from what I've been told, they're really concerned that, I don't know if it's the layout or what it is about the plan, that,
So the way the wetland sits now, we have to find 12 feet is what's driving that change. So if we can accommodate the 12 feet, we can proceed as planned. If we can't, we have to make adjustments, be it remove a walking track, adjust a path,
how do you
things like
find
that.
12 feet?
That's where the engineers get paid lots of money to do.
Okay, well, I'm off topic. So we have a motion on the floor to approve Marshall Simons Field Phase 2. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, 4-0. Next item?
If we put forward Marshall Simons Middle School Field Bathroom Facility for $1,650,000.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? How realistic is this?
It's up to the championing that we and other parents do for this project. Again, this is definitely not something that the town manager, again, not speaking for Ways and Means, our town meeting, but is really anticipating. This was not in any of the planning schedules. This is something that came up from the conversations that happened at town meeting last year with the middle school field and the complex that is proposed to be there, the need for bathrooms. So again, I do think this might be a little bit of an uphill battle, but I could be over-speaking that, and residents and the town meeting members may hear differently than what I'm saying and really want this project to happen, so.
Madam Chair, part of my support of this would be, I think it's an important conversation to have, even if not supported, even if it takes us a couple years. We have very good facilities, and we're building, hopefully with approvals, expanding that facility, and it makes no sense to me that we don't have bathroom facilities that match the crowds and the people who are going to participate in that. So again, even if we don't get town meeting to support it, just like the conversation about varsity field, no matter what high school project we end up with, I'd like to end up with some indoor, some non-portable bathroom facilities at varsity field as a result of the project.
Where will it go?
So the proposal that we have right now is between the parking lot closest to Locust Street and the current front track. So where the bleachers are, you come in off the parking lot there.
Kind of where the porta potty is?
Kind of, but more on the grass side of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you go in the gate,
If you were to go in the gate and going straight towards the front of the building as opposed to the track on the left, there's a large grass area between there and the hill, and we were thinking roughly closer to the parking lot than anything else.
So I think, Madam Chair, this is really like a completion of the project, right? Because we're going to add a full 1/3 of field capability, and this really addresses the infrastructure required to hold the event appropriately at those spaces. So, when you talk about Phase 2 for the turf and resurface, okay, that's updating that, and then the field and bathroom facilities, there's money in there. So like, we have to address parking, for instance, which is something maybe we could do with this project. So, those proposal of maybe making that grass area to the northeast of the school be a permeable, kind of rock parking lot, or you do the pavers in there, things like that. Because if we increase all the space, you have 3 sporting events going on at one time, the infrastructure required for, bathrooms, parking, and all the other things that go along with it really completes that project and brings it to a full complex.
would it make any sense to do the bathrooms before Phase 2?
I think we run up against the potential timeline on Phase 2. By splitting it, I think we accepted the fact that the current field is 11 and a half years old. So going into that, if we were to delay it another 2 years.
Yeah, takes too long, okay.
And then potentially it goes back to Ms. Novotchek's conversation that if we were to make a decision on the high school that maybe impacted the playing fields,
Got it.
we may run into that situation, so.
And through the chair, does this have a snack shack component to it?
So what's proposed right now has bathroom facilities, a snack shack, and a storage. Again, once we go through the design phase, that will obviously come back to either at least this committee or a subcommittee to make the final determination, but it's proposed to include those amenities.
All right, so has this been moved and seconded already? Yes. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 4-0.
All
Okay.
right, I don't see any more.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Again, very briefly, going back in the agenda, Dr. Chen.
Yes, all I'm going to say is that this is an updated policy that already exists, and all it does is that it takes the new law into consideration once President Trump became president, of going back to the Title IX, for instance, definitions of using the 2020 federal statute. And so all I did is we got our school attorney, to readjust the correct lingo, and that's it.
So we had to update Title IX for the changes under one administration, and now we have to update it again based on federal changes. And again, our lawyer, as Dr. Chen said, just approved this language. So you already have this policy. We're just asking your permission to match the federal language. And so we can consider this a first reading. Don't need a vote, but it'll be an agenda upcoming either on the 8th or the meeting after that. We just need a vote to move forward.
Okay. Anyone else have anything they want to bring up under new or old business? Rick, you got anything for Ways and Means?
Other than next Monday, we're going to be meeting with Ms. Cosia regarding he's going to be meeting regarding the special ed accommodating budget, so.
Okay, then Jeremy and I are both on that subcommittee, too.
Okay, great.
So, going back to earlier in the evening, I think, and I don't know how you want to do this, but I think we need some recommendations for going forward with parent square issues, opt-out issues. I think that, I don't know if there are any other surveys that are, the parents get upset about. This one clearly is a big problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, Lisa's been working on some.
Controversial, are there any controversial surveys that we need to take a look at before we let them go out to students? I mean, this is something I'd like you to prepare for like another agenda.
All right.
What surveys do exist, and can we see what they look like and make a decision? And we need to decide on this opt-out, opt-in. I understand, to Melissa's point, that some people really consider this survey important, but I think it.
So, through the chair, may I say something through the chair? I've already, and with your permission, Dr. Conte,
of course.
I've already begun some discussions, and the discussions are, do we need this survey? And if we do need this survey, are there other ways of collecting the data that we already have? So, meaning that, are there already existing pieces of data that we can just collect based on things that we already do?
And then we were.
Well, that would have to be something that was really fully explained in detail so that people understood, because they're accusing us of hiding and sneaking around to get information, and certainly we don't want to do that.
No, we're not hiding or sneaking around anything.
So, and I think we were talking about different ways of, again, having the assumed opt-out and doing other things. So we're having those conversations. I think I heard that we should present some potential policy language and then some practices moving forward.
Practice language is probably even more important.
It is, and to make sure that the opt-outs are complied with, I think we have to make sure that that's what happens.
And I think that in any case, with a survey that is supposedly described as optional, a student that says to a teacher, I want to opt out, I don't want to take this, there should be no argument. There should be no debate.
I agree with you
100%.
100%.
And
Can we just get that communicated to teachers, I think, perhaps? I
Yes.
think that might go a long way.
say that again?
I mean, I think, my understanding is some of them, they say, just take the survey, and if the student's opted out, they actually don't get presented with the survey, so it's not obvious who's opted out and who has not. But for the teachers to say, if you at any point feel uncomfortable taking any survey, stop and be done, and just sit at your desk and wait, or some more concrete language. Again, for any survey, if you don't want to take it, you can be done. And if you don't want to take it, we shouldn't have to say, go over here, just sit, if they're sitting with their iPads, just sit and wait and don't take it.
So one of the speakers asked a series of questions that I wrote down that maybe you could get answers. I would, personally, I'd like to see the surveys from 23 and 25.
Absolutely.
I think maybe there shouldn't be surveys without a school committee vote. I know that's pushing our authority, so I'm not saying that I believe that, but maybe you can think about it and address it.
Again, with this survey, absolutely. And again, I think we're going to inventory all the surveys we do. We'll get that to you. And if you all, I think, want to weigh in, we shouldn't provide a survey without a purpose. So I think we'll make sure that you all sort of see that.
So I've got who kept the questions in, why was it not reviewed by authority? And so I'm wondering if you could piece together sort of the journey that a survey takes, I mean, we didn't see the survey. Maybe you didn't, I guess you guys didn't see the survey that actually went out, from my understanding. And I think we need to know the pathway that it followed. And tell me if I'm correct in assuming that the changes went through the Wellness Committee, and then this outside consultant made it into an online survey and added some definitions?
No, I think the survey was already online. I think the questions were reviewed. I think it was very similar to the 2023 survey. What happened after the Wellness Committee meeting was the definitions were amended. And I think what didn't come back to the folks who were reviewing the assessment were the amended definitions. So as the gentleman said, part of the definition was in the 2023 survey.
I'm surprised people didn't get upset then.
Well, I think, and again, so I certainly will, again, I think that we made some assumptions that we shouldn't have that caused some problems and significant issues. I don't want to undersell the issues, but we'll work on some language and we can go through sort of the pathway of a survey. But I think we should start with what surveys we are using and why. And then if you all, I think we should ask your support of those surveys and those questions. I think that's relatively straightforward.
Right.
I think different subcommittees can make a recommendation. Or not make the recommendation. So again, there's no, I think the more public we have with these conversations, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, well, this one crossed a line and we need to fix it. I also think that Adrian Simeone had some good points that maybe we could discuss at some point. A lot of the just sexuality that is brought in, whether it's how you address yourself or, maybe,
And again, I don't want to distract from
You know.
people's anger or anything else like that, but I think one of the things that's also coming up through the research, and not just in Burlington, is that access to cell phones during school time is detracting from learning. So I know there is potential legislation. I know that the Attorney General is talking about limiting access to cell phones bell to bell, not for medical purposes or anything else like that. There are exceptions, but sort of talking about that moving forward. So the definition of wellness is sort of expanding, again, I don't want to detract from the conversation that we had, getting you this information, but I do think we need to have more conversations about the environments that we're trying to create and manage, because it may not be a lot of what the complaints were tonight, which are legitimate, and I don't want to question them. Again, I think when our intentions were questions, our intentions were to try to
help kids.
help and
But we
support
screwed it
kids in
up.
that. We think we screwed up some of the process,
Yeah.
but the intention was to help that. So I think we need to have more of those conversations to make sure that we're trying to navigate those waters in a way that parents support.
All right, well, we can have further conversations at another
Madam
time.
Chair, just what's one additional comment? So
Yeah,
I think
go
an
ahead.
easy thing we can either just look at or bring up in the next agenda is removing JSI. I think
Oh,
it was an
that's
overstep
gone.
by
They're
them,
gone.
so I think that's an easy one to
They're
just.
already gone, right?
Yep, and then we look at how much we're funding into this.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that step was taken already. Okay, so, motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.